I'd like to call to order the Reidsville City Council meeting for Tuesday, May the 12th, 2026. First order of business will be invocation by the Reverend Garrison, pastor of Covington Memorial Wesleyan Church, 3218 Vance Street, Extension, Reidsville.
Let us pray. Lord, I thank you for this beautiful day. I thank you for the opportunity to serve the wonderful citizens here in Reidsville, North Carolina. Lord, I pray for our mayor. I pray for the city council. Lord, I pray that you would give them discernment, clarity. Lord, I pray for a spirit of unity in this meeting. We pray that your will be done. I pray that your Holy Spirit would just lead and guide this meeting. And we give you all the praise. We give you the glory. It's in the wonderful name of Jesus Christ we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Next, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance, and we'll all rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next order of business, we have two proclamations: recognition of National Police Officers Week, May 10 through 16, 2026, and Peace Officers Memorial Day on May 15, 2026. And the second recognition will be for National Public Works Week, May 17 through 23rd, 2026. Chief Garrison.
Mr. Mayor, adoption of the agenda as presented.
Okay, sorry about that. Don't mind just being up here with the chief. Skip something. Everybody's had an opportunity to see the agenda. What's your favor for the agenda on tonight? Adopting the agenda.
Motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Okay. Thank you. Now let's get to the proclamation. It's a beautiful crowd. Might I say handsome crowd and a beautiful young lady. Whereas the members of the Reidsville Police Department play an essential role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms of citizens. And whereas it is important that all citizens know and understand the duties, responsibilities, hazards, and sacrifices of their law enforcement agency, and that members of our police department recognize their duty to serve the people by safeguarding life and property, by protecting them against violence and disorder, and by protecting the innocent against deception and the weak against oppression. Whereas the men and women of the Reidsville Police Department provide a vital public service to our local community. Now, therefore, I, Donald L. Gore, Mayor of the City of Reidsville, on behalf of the Reidsville City Council, do hereby proclaim May 10 through 16, 2026 as National Police Week in Reidsville, commemorating law enforcement officers, past and present. I further call upon all citizens to observe May 15, 2026 as Peace Officer Memorial Day in the state of North Carolina, in honor of those police officers who have made the ultimate sacrifice in service to their community, or have become disabled in the line of duty. And let us recognize and pay respect to the survivors of our fallen heroes. This is the 12th day of May 2026. Chief, let's give him a big round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you.
A poor frog will grow about his people. This is a fantastic movie. Young men and women, if you haven't read it. You can sleep good at night during the day. There's Maurice Brothers here. Members of Public Works, please stand. Lord, be dandy with you. Okay. Whereas Public Works services provided in our community are an integral part of our citizens' everyday lives. Whereas the support and understanding and informed citizenry is vital to the efficient operation of public works systems and programs such as water, sewer, streets, and highways, public buildings, fleet maintenance, water treatment, and solid waste collection. And whereas the health, safety, and comfort of this community greatly depends on these facilities and services. Whereas the quality and effectiveness of these facilities, as well as their planning, design, and construction, is vitally dependent upon the efforts and skills of public works employees. Whereas the efficiency and the qualified and dedicated personnel who staff public works departments is materially influenced by people's attitudes and understanding of the importance of the work they perform. Now, therefore, I, Donald L. Gore, Mayor of the City of Reidsville, on behalf of the Reidsville City Council, do hereby proclaim the week of May 17, 2026 as National Public Works Week in the City of Reidsville. And I call upon all citizens to acquaint themselves with the issues involved in providing our public works and the recognition or recognize the contributions which the employees make every day to our health, safety, comfort, and quality of life, following this year's theme, Rooted in Service, Powered by Community. This is the 12th day of May, 2026. Well, you got anything you want to say?
Yes, sir, I do. Well, it's an honor we accept this proclamation, sir. Just want to say a few words for my team. Good evening to everyone. It's an honor to stand before you today as we celebrate National Public Works Week coming up soon. Here in Reidsville, this week is about recognizing the people who keep our city running, often without recognition, but never without impact. Public Works is not just a department, it is the foundation of our daily lives. Here in Reidsville, our Public Works team represents a wide range of dedicated professionals. I want to specifically speak of such as water treatment facility staff, the wastewater treatment plant staff, lift stations crew, solid waste staff, street division, meter division, park and rec division, water and sewer division, plant maintenance staff, fleet maintenance staff, cemetery division, and administrative personnel. Each of you plays a critical role in ensuring that our systems operate safely, efficiently, and in compliance with regulations. Your work is not always seen, but it is always essential. Whether you're responding to a late night emergency, maintaining a critical piece of equipment, monitoring systems performance, or planning for future infrastructure needs, you are protecting the public health, supporting economic development, and improving the quality of life for every resident in this city. Public Works connects us all. It supports our homes, our businesses, our future. Because of your efforts, Reidsville remains a strong, resilient, and thriving community. To our Public Works employees, thank you for your hard work, your commitment, and your service. Today we proudly celebrate each of you. Thank you.
Reidsville wouldn't be what it is if it was not for Public
Always
Works.
appreciate it.
I appreciate that. Every word you said is true. Yes, I appreciate it.
Police keep us safe and Public Works keep us going. Let's give him another round of applause. About to go home after that. Next item on the agenda, approval of the consent agenda. 6 items. Any one of the 6 that you'd like to have pulled for discussion? If not, we have a motion. We have a motion. We have a second. Any discussion?
May I vote since I didn't attend one of the meetings?
That's okay. Yeah. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Okay. Now we move to the public hearings. First one, consideration of an ordinance to extend the corporate limits of the city of Reidsville by voluntarily annexing approximately 74 acres. Parcel number 142306, located off US 158 and Ashcroft Drive. A 2026-03, enclosure 1. Ms. Drew Bigelow, Planning and Community Development Director.
Thank you, Mayor and members of City Council. As indicated, this is an annexation request for the property identified by Raccoon County parcel number 142306. All identified property owners for that parcel have petitioned, and this is a fully executed request. It's approximately 74 acres, give or take a little bit. It is not the entirety of the parcel, it is just the portion for which they have planned development. This is located as indicated off of US 158 and Ashcroft Drive, and it is a contiguous annexation. Staff have reviewed this request and we make the following findings. The property identified in this request runs adjacent to existing water and sewer on Ashcroft Drive and additionally on the end of Ashland Drive to the east. This property is currently outside of the city of Reidsville's jurisdiction, so it does not have a city of Reidsville zoning designation. You will hear that item next if this is approved. The applicant has submitted a concurrent request, and that request is for conditional zoning R6. The Police Department, Fire Department, Public Works Department, and the Planning and Community Development Department are in agreement that this annexation will not result in any undue or excessive hardships for staff or in relation to public safety. Based on these findings, staff recommend that the annexation petition be approved. And I can take questions. I believe there's also representation for the annexation and the rezoning portion here tonight from the developer.
Any questions?
Question. You said that it's an annexation for 74 acres, but it's not all going to be developed, right?
Correct.
How many acres will be developed, do you know?
I believe we address the acreage in the request for the rezoning. I do not know that off the top of my head. The parcel's 100 and some acres, and it's this 74, 73 and some change that they're looking to do the development on.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Okay. The public hearing will start at 6:15. Anyone here who'd like to speak for?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. My name is Mark Isaacson. I'm an attorney in Greensboro. My address is 804 Green Valley Road in Greensboro, North Carolina. I'm here on behalf of the property owners and the applicant, which is the contract purchaser. As I understand, this is just for the annexation part of the application. So we would just support and submit to council what the planning department has submitted to you, that this property meets the test for annexation into the city limits and will be able to be serviced by the city departments, as you've seen from city staff report. So we're prepared to move forward with annexation, and we'll be glad to address the zoning part of this application at the appropriate time. Be glad to answer any questions that y'all may have. Okay.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak for? Is there anyone who'd like to speak against? Amy, you gonna speak?
I mean, so the rezoning is a separate issue then?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So I'm not going to speak against the rezoning.
Okay, okay. Anyone else who'd like to speak against? We'll close the public hearing then at 6:17. What's the pleasure of council?
Motion to approve volunteer annexation request for property of US 158.
We have a motion and we have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, then raise your right hand. Okay. Thank you. Next item on the agenda, consideration of a rezoning request for an undeveloped parcel located at 7410 US 158, parcel number 142306 from Rockingham County Residential Agriculture RA to City of Reidsville Conditional Residential 6 R6 CZ 2026-02 Enclosure 2. Ms. Bigelow.
Thank you again, Mayor and Council. Four Star Group Incorporated is petitioning to rezone one undeveloped parcel located along US 158, as identified with the annexation, parcel number 142306, from current Rockingham County Residential Agricultural to a City of Reidsville designation of Conditional Residential 6. According to the Rockingham County tax card, the owners of the properties are Najid Raymond, Munira Raymond, Robert Rourke, and Jean Ann Rourke. The parcel encompasses a total area of approximately 74 acres. Again, that's just the portion that's being annexed, the portion that will be subdivided off to be developed. The land is currently zoned agricultural and is undeveloped. Water service does exist, as noted previously, on Ashland and Winterberry, and then on Ashcroft. The water line is operated by the City of Reidsville. Sewer service is available within about 215 feet of the right-of-way of Ashland Drive, Ashcroft, and Winterberry. The sewer line is also operated by the City of Reidsville. The property is located in the Jordan Lake watershed and the Troublesome Creek watersheds. Additionally, there are several streams located on site that are required to be protected by a 100-foot buffer, a riparian buffer per NCDEQ Jordan Lake stream buffer rules. It is the responsibility of the developer and the applicant to obtain all required stream buffer impact approvals from NCDEQ prior to development of the site. The floodplain insurance rate map, identified as firm, indicates no floodplains on site. The rezoning approval is in alignment with our watershed regulations and does not pose a threat to the city's watershed or drinking water supply. As you've known and you've heard multiple times from me, a conditional rezoning request amends the zoning map with site-specific conditions that are mutually agreed upon by the developer and the city. This allows them to place those voluntary conditions on the land with an intent to potentially restrict allowable uses or to deviate from our standards in some way. The owner and applicant get to choose which of these they'd like to implement, and in this case, they're implementing standards from the Residential 6 zoning district. The owner and applicant have requested to limit allowable land uses to single-family detached dwellings only. So that would exclude townhomes, that would exclude condos and other forms of multifamily, as well as manufactured housing. The applicant has provided the required concept master plan and has agreed to provide the following development conditions. The density shall not exceed 100 units. I think there's a slight modification there that the attorney who's here on behalf of the developer can speak to. A 20-foot wide natural buffer landscape is to be preserved where possible, and public road dimensions are to exist as depicted on the concept plan provided in your packet. Per Article 5, Section 1 of the zoning ordinance, any major change that alters the density of the development will again come back before council for consideration. Minor changes that do not rise to the level of a major change can be approved administratively by the director. Approval of a concept plan does not issue approval for construction. A preliminary plat review must still be completed by the Technical Review Committee, along with all applicable construction drawing and infrastructure plan review. The proposed concept master plan includes construction of 100 single-family detached dwellings, and as noted above, they are located in the watershed. So they will have to adhere to all of the watershed standards. Per Article 14, water supply watersheds within our ordinance. This property is located on the border of Growth Management Area 3, Suburban, and Growth Management Area 5 Conservation, because it is down near the lake. Growth Management Area 3 Suburban is predominantly used for residential development. There's a lot of vacant land that's ideal for residential development. It's not always ideal for commercial. Typically what you would see is residential, and that's what they've proposed. There are additional characteristics of having water and sewer utility access and roads that are capable of handling traffic and through traffic for residential uses. In Growth Management Area 5, conservation encompasses the area to the southwest of the city and is intended as an area of low impact to protect the city's water supply watershed. As indicated previously, we haven't found any indication based on our preliminary plan review that this would impact our watershed. Based on those findings, the planning staff recommends that the proposed rezoning be approved. And I'll take any questions you have.
Any questions of staff?
You said they were going to be 100 homes? 100?
100 was initially was proposed, and that report hasn't been updated since they provided us an updated master plan. I believe now it's about 100. I think the number I'm recalling is 104, but I would save that request for the applicant.
Could you, I know there's some people here, obviously, that was on to speak out against this, but well, how does this play effect in Ashcroft with the E.V. Wilkins Way project? I know they have the same engineer.
Yes.
So I'm just curious to that. I think people are probably going to ask that question.
Excellent question. Yeah, so during the review process for this concept plan, the initial phase that was shown to staff did not show multiple entrances. It just showed one entrance coming off of Ashcroft. We talked to the state, worked with Assistant City Manager Fire Chief Joshua Farmer to get answers from them on what would be required, if a second entrance would be required or not. It was indicated that a second entrance would be required. So the new plan that you have in your packet does show a second tie-on to the top of Ashland, where we previously approved that other development for Ashcroft. So that is, contingent upon whether or not that development moves along in a timely manner. And then they also have a emergency drive that will be connected to 158. So they will have ample access to and fro the property.
So but this is two separate developments still, correct?
Mhm. Two separate developments.
But the E.V. Wilkins, that they're going to get that separate emergency exit. It would tie in eventually, it looked like on that map. So I think a lot of the people's concerns was, which regardless, and I know we do traffic studies and, you know, all these things through the permitting process, I thought we could eliminate answer a few of the questions I feel like are coming. All of E.V. Wilkins wouldn't be necessarily running through Ashcroft, vice versa, like these others. They have that second entryway to split the traffic up.
Potentially, yes. Now, on 158, it is currently proposed as an emergency access that's per DOT. I believe they've also brought their traffic engineer along to speak on that in a little bit more detail. And he can clarify any questions that I cannot, but that is how it's currently proposed as an emergency access.
So on this upper end, you know, that for the emergency access, it shows that road tying back in eventually to E.V.
Yeah.
Will that tie back in with this?
That is what's proposed to tie back into Ashland there.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Which gives that second entrance. So traffic is going to run by the E.V. Wilkins way and come to access that, and some would access the Ashcroft way. So it's split traffic.
Yes, sir.
For the people in Ashcroft, it's not every single 100 individual person running up through Ashcroft Drive is what I'm getting at.
Yes, you're 100% correct. The connection from that point to 158 is going to be the emergency connection.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions?
Thank you again.
Thank you. Public hearing will start at 6:27. Anyone who'd like to speak for?
Good evening again, Mr. Mayor and members of council. I'm still Mark Isaacson at 804 Green Valley Road in Greensboro. Have some materials to hand up if approval. As those materials are making their way down the dais, let me just mention that, again, I'm here on behalf of the property owners and the contract purchaser, which is 4-Star USA, which is a land development firm with offices in Greensboro. 4-Star has this property under contract, and as you've heard, they hope to develop approximately 74 acres. The property is located along NC Highway 58, and the intent, subject to approval of the annexation and zoning, is to develop the property for approximately 106 single-family detached homes. That is the number of homes that was presented to and approved unanimously by the planning board for recommendation. With me this evening are our civil engineer, Aiden Stoltzfus, and our transportation engineer, Pat Ivey, who was with NCDOT in a senior position for many years. And so they're available to answer any technical or other questions that council may have about this application. The first handout I would direct your attention to is an aerial photograph of the property. It's outlined in green, as you'll see below, or to the south of US Highway 158. And you'll notice or see that the property is located very near the interchange with US Highway 29. And we think that's an important factor for council to consider because of the location, the ease of access to major thoroughfares, to allow residents here to get to a variety of locations, whether they're going north, south, east, west, to work, to school, or to other locations. It's very convenient and safe access to the interstate and other thoroughfare system in the area. Also, I think what you may notice is to the east of this property is a combination of land uses. And after all, I think as your legal counsel will advise you, the focus here is on the proposed land use and whether it comports with the city's comprehensive land use plan. Here, I think you'll notice that there is a mix of land uses, especially to the east of the property. There's a similar detached single-family community, Ashcroft, to the east of it. But then you get to a mix of various land uses between that and and Highway 29. So, for example, there is a range from light industrial to residential, to medical services, to commercial, including several restaurants, Mexican restaurants, some other establishments, and including even religious organizations and agricultural uses. So a true mix of uses in this area, and that's all driven, I think, logically by the location of the thoroughfare and the interstate system here. I think I would submit to council that you'll continue to see some growth and some changes in this area because of the proximity to the interstate and other highway systems here. Now, next, and we submit this for illustrative purposes, you'll see the sketch plan that Drew referenced. And this has been submitted to the city's staff and reviewed for technical compliance. And while it hasn't been approved because it's not a fully engineered site plan, it's a concept or sketch plan, and it has gone through the system, it has gone through review, and I guess I would feel safe in saying that no red flags were established or noticed in reviewing this. And this is where the fire department and other emergency departments noticed that we should have additional access points into this community. And so you'll see at the north end of the property, and if you're looking at it, it's kind of the narrow point here. It's the north end of the property where it touches Highway NC 158, as well as another access point toward the north part of the property. And the main access point is where the Ashcroft Drive is stubbed in to the existing property. So I would submit to council that this was the intent, this was the layout all along, was that this Ashcroft Drive would stub into this vacant land, and that as this property was developed in a logical and reasonable manner, that road would be extended into this new residential community. And so that's what you see on the plan, and that's what the engineers have proposed. In addition to those couple of points, I would ask the council to consider that out of the approximately 74 acres, about 50% of this property is remaining as undisturbed and open space. And I think that's an important factor for the council to consider, because annexing this property into the city of Reidsville allows the development of the property to be done under city standards, under city development standards. And these houses are gathered together to leave open natural and low-lying or other areas that are sensitive areas. And so the engineers have really paid attention to that and been very thoughtful about it, I would submit, so that this property is laid out in a very efficient manner, and trying to be good stewards of the land here to preserve open space and undisturbed areas. Those are natural areas that we think the residents here and others will enjoy seeing as kept as undisturbed. The approximate density here with the number of units, of dwelling units on this acreage, comes out to about 1.45 units per acre, which is a very low density rate for anything in a city. And we would submit that that is a factor also to be considered in your deliberations under the comprehensive land use plan. When you have an opportunity such as this, which I think is fairly unique, to provide housing and to keep it at a low density rate and still keep open and undisturbed spaces on property, it's really a great opportunity for, I think, for the city. In addition, as you'll see, in terms of zoning, which focuses on compatibility and consistency, there is a similar residential development of detached single-family in Ashcroft to the east. And so I think that's another important factor to consider, and it's a factor under your comprehensive land use plan. The staff report goes into great detail about the compliance of this project with the comprehensive plan and that it's met all of the tests of that plan, which I will submit as another important criteria for council to consider. The planning board, as I mentioned, gave it a unanimous recommendation in favor, found that it was reasonable and in the public interest to annex and zone this property as we have applied. And finally, I would submit that, again, the location is fairly unique. It provides great access to the interstate system. The applicant has worked in good faith. We had the last handout there is a letter that we sent out to people in the area per the city's notification list. We did have a neighborhood meeting. A handful of people showed up, 6 or 7 folks showed up. We talked with them, heard their concerns. And in fact, one thing I'll mention is that as a result of that, we added a landscape buffer along the southeast line where it adjoins some single-family homes there. We added some additional landscape buffer to address the concern. Those folks wanted to remain as natural an area as possible in their backyards, and we respect that. And so we, engineers, were able to move things around a little bit and add an additional landscape buffer that the developer would pay for at its cost to address that concern. We would submit, in summary, that this project, if approved, will provide a nice balance of housing contrasted or compared with uses, mix of uses in the area with the light industrial, the restaurants, the access to the interstate system. All of those things are major factors, I think, for council to consider. It will provide additional housing in Reidsville, which we believe is needed, and it will add to the tax base of the city, which is not a bad thing. So for those reasons and the others that you see in the staff report, we submit this application for council's review and hopefully approval. Our team is available to answer or address any questions that you all may have, and I'm certainly available for that as well. We appreciate your consideration and assume that after anyone speaks in opposition, I'll have an opportunity to provide any responses at that time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions?
I just have a comment. You mentioned the location being great for travel, for shopping, for restaurants. It's also great for schools.
For schools, yes, ma'am. I overlooked that, so thank you for bringing that to my attention. But thank you for your time and consideration this evening.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak for? Is there anyone who'd like to speak against?
My name is Tab Hagler. I live on Winterberry Drive in the Ashcroft neighborhood. Contrary to what the attorney just said, there was no neighborhood meeting. The residents of the neighborhood whose property abutted the property received letters, but no one else in the neighborhood, including those that live on Ashcroft Drive, received any notification regarding the proposed rezoning and new neighborhood. I suspect most of you guys understand the makeup of the neighborhood. There's currently 40 houses. There's 12 townhouses in the neighborhood, so that makes 52 residents that currently live there. Ashcroft Drive is the only entrance into the Ashcroft neighborhood with the stoplight at Freeway Drive. Approximately 100 yards from where that stoplight is where E.V. Wilkins Way is. As noted earlier, E.V. Wilkins Way is going to have one of the two entrances associated with the new community that's been proposed. And then the other entrance is going to be on Ashland Drive as well. At the stoplight, there's turning lanes going north and south on Freeway Drive. You also have a left turn and a right turn on Ashcroft Drive onto Freeway Drive. The E.V. Wilkins Way is the access road that is used by all the businesses in the Ashcroft Business Park. There are 5 restaurants in that business park. There's a dance school in the business park. There's numerous other kinds of businesses. There's one entrance into the Ashcroft Business Park, and then there's one entrance into the Monterey parking lot going south. Anybody going north on Freeway Drive has to make a left-hand turn at Ashcroft Drive to get into the shops and everything like that. The first neighborhood, which is being developed by the Ford family, they're projected to add 140 to 180 new homes to the Ashcroft neighborhood. And then in April of this year, the rezoning of the 74 acres on the Rourke Ramon property was approved by the planning board, and it does lie adjacent to the western edge of Ashcroft subdivision. Since there was no neighborhood information shared with the entire neighborhood, we weren't sure exactly how many houses, so I used 80 to 90, which I think was said at the planning board meeting. And so there was also no discussion about using Ashcroft Drive as the primary entrance into that neighborhood. Just for your information, Ashcroft Drive, because the comment that the planning director made, taking some of the traffic off of Ashcroft Drive, there's only 3 houses from Ashcroft Drive to the end of Ashland Drive to the end of Ashcroft Drive. So that's probably about 100 yards is all that that's going to save from the traffic. So the traffic is basically out of that neighborhood going to go the entire way on Ashcroft Drive to get to the stoplight. If you take the 140 to 180 using worst case scenario, plus the other 100 homes, that adds 280 homes to a entranceway that is a single entranceway off of Freeway Drive. Point of perspective, imagine the Belmont community, that entire neighborhood, approximately 300 homes, having one access into that neighborhood. At rush hour, early morning, school buses running, there will be who knows how many cars. A traffic study is going to do no good because right now none of the subdivisions are being built. So we don't really know the full impact of what it's going to do. But can you imagine 300 homes being serviced by one stoplight and everybody backing up, possibly beyond E.V. Wilkins Way, to get out of the neighborhood during these rush periods? The majority of the people that eat at Monterey and the rest of the restaurants, they're coming from the north and the south, and so majority of them will use E.V. Wilkins Way. That construction of the road is on a curve, and every day when we drive that road and we see a car pull up on E.V. Wilkins Way wanting to make a left onto Ashcroft Drive, every resident in our neighborhood says a silent prayer please do not pull out in front of me, because it happens every single day where those cars, because they can't see, because it's a curve, they can't see the cars coming on Ashcroft Drive. We talked to the Ford family. They said they were going to make changes. Nothing has occurred yet. We're not sure exactly what those changes will be. And I guess the other area, when the Ford family came and spoke, they gave us their map. They gave the entire neighborhood their map and told us what they were planning on doing. And they actually bragged to City Council about how they're going to have sidewalks and walking paths and crosswalks. Ashcroft Drive has nothing. If you want to walk your dog, if you want your child or your grandchild to ride their bike, they're on Ashcroft Drive. There's going to be 300 plus cars on that road at any given point. It is a safety concern. We have no sidewalks in our neighborhood. Ashland Drive has no sidewalks. We don't have bike lanes like there is in Belmont. We have nothing. So as a neighborhood, I mean, addition of this new traffic is going to put us at risk. The other thing is the Ford family, when they talked about building their subdivision, they committed to using E.V. Wilkins Way for all construction traffic. We have not heard any kind of commitment on where the contractors and the road crews and everybody will be coming from, whether they'll be using Ashcroft Drive or coming off 158 on this secondary road that they're going to build. I guess our request is we're not against the neighborhood. We understand housing is needed in town, but to use an existing neighborhood as sort of the point of entry, destroying the value of these homes that are sitting on, there's 12 homes that sit on Ashcroft Drive, with traffic, with curves, it will be very much a safety risk, and aesthetically it won't be nice because there'll be cars going by your house at all points in time. So we would just prefer if we could find another entrance off 158 to bring that traffic in that way versus using Ashcroft Drive as the access point. Questions?
Anyone have any questions?
I don't really have any questions, but I will make a comment to some of your statements in terms of the number of houses and the car counts and stuff like that. Once these guys get into a deeper state of this approval process, DOT does take into consideration the number of homes and allots the number of vehicles to those homes to come up with that traffic count. And so I think that all of that stuff has to be looked at and presented to the city before their approval process for authorization to construct goes. And so if these guys build before the Fords build, it could change the trajectory of that, and it could require some type of alternate path. It could open up that emergency exit. We would have to see that. But at this point in time, what's provided to us, in my opinion, is this development. And we don't know where the Fords are at. Last I heard, they were talking about reducing the density levels of that and building single-family homes. So I hear your concerns.
This is one of those things where we don't know what we don't know.
Yeah, the bike lanes, that there's a possibility to add bike lanes in here. It's a matter of striping. There's a lot of recommendations that would come down from DOT. Eventually, we're not at that point, as the attorney stated, where all these things get taken into consideration. But also, I would say this, as the attorney stated, the road has always been stubbed in as if it's always been to be developed. And anytime you move into the city, that's always a possibility, especially when you have that vacant land around there. People want development, they want growth in the community, but they just don't want it in their backyard. You know, it's good over there, but not here. So we have to weigh that into account as well, you know, in our decision making. Or at least I do.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak against? Okay.
I'm Melvin Hill, and I live on 2700 Ashcroft Drive. I'm 81 years of age. I've been out there for 32 or 33 years. I walk my dog in the morning and in the afternoon. We have wide streets there in Ashcroft, but sometimes in the morning, people leaving Ashcroft, the sun is in their eyes, and coming around that curve, I have to jump on somebody's land to dodge a car. That's just with 40-some people out there. Add 300 people out there, and it's going to be a disaster. My big concern is the safety. We do not have any place to walk other than on the road. I keep hearing about a second entrance, but I understand that's an emergency entrance and only for emergency vehicles. So that will do nothing to relieve the congestion on Ashcroft Drive by the stoplight trying to get on freeway. I live right next to the property on Ashcroft Drive that's going to be annexed. I have received absolutely nothing from these people about what's going on, no notice about anything. So for the lawyer, the gentleman to say that we were informed, that's not true. But I would just ask you guys to please look at this, look at the safety factor. With that many people, with 300 houses, you're probably talking 450 to 500 cars a day going through that neighborhood with one entrance. And that's a major concern that I have. Any questions?
I'll provide you with this. It has the second entrance as well as the emergency entrance, which I circled and highlighted for you.
Again, if it's an emergency entrance, it can only be used by emergency vehicles. So does that give us any relief?
I highlighted both of them for you, circled them, the one that hits 158 and the one that hits E.B. Wilkins to split the traffic. That's a map you can be able to look at and kind of have an idea.
But is it an emergency entrance or just a regular entrance for all 300 people to go out?
So there's two entrances there. One's the emergency entrance and exit onto 158, and then there's the exit onto E.B. Wilkins. You know, we can get the traffic guy up here to try to explain that if you'd like.
I would like that.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak against?
Hi, I'm Mrs. Wharf, and I live on 158, and I didn't intend to speak tonight, but I would like to put out there, if you would, put a bug in the ear of some DOT engineers. We put 3 stoplights on one bridge, and we used to, 45 years ago, quit mowing grass on Saturday, run up to Short Sugars, get a hot dog all the way, and get back home in 30 minutes. This Sunday, left my home at 9 o'clock to go to church and as usual, hit every light on that bridge where 158 crosses Freeway Drive. And so it's just a bottleneck. It's just awful. And I don't know why they designed it that way. I can think clearly of another way they could have done it with only 2. But 3 is just ridiculous. When my husband died in 2012, I had to move my mailbox from the other side of 158 to the house side because from 3 to 5 o'clock with the cemetery and 2 elementary schools, I can't get across the street at those times of day. So I would like you, maybe whoever can suggest something to DOT that even you're talking about an emergency entrance, going up on 158, if something there could be redesigned when they're doing it at the front end of this. would be appreciated. And I'm excited for new homes to come to our area, so I'm not negative about anything like that. But there is that traffic and the way that Freeway Drive has the median in the middle, and different things could have been done, I think, to make it a little bit better. That's all. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak against? Now, sir, would you like to come back and...
Could he just get the DOT traffic engineer to explain to them the entryways, or is that something he can do?
Yes, sir. I was going to say, just in terms of responding to some of the points that we've heard, we have Pat Ivy, who was with NCDOT for many years in a senior engineering position, available to answer any questions that you all may have. I would just like to mention again that as your legal counsel and your planning director, I think will advise you, the purview here, or the scope of review, is not speculation. We respect and understand the concerns that we've heard about transportation, but I think the purview of the council here is, does this comport with the city's long-term land use plan? We submit that it does. Is it compatible with what's on the ground now? It's a mix of uses. The location, again, near US 29 and 158 is an ideal location for a reasonable density of single-family detached homes that are consistent with what's next door. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel here, and I would submit that this proposal makes a lot of common sense, and it does comport with the city's plan, which is the test under North Carolina law and under the city's ordinance. And for those reasons, we would submit that hopefully you'll approve it, and Mr. Ivy's available to answer any questions.
Good evening, Mayor Gorham and members of the council. My name is Pat Ivy. I am an engineer with LJB Engineering in Kernersville. The address is 311A South Main Street in Kernersville, 27284. Prior to coming to work for LJB, I retired from NCDOT after 38 years of service with DOT. The last 25 I served as the division engineer for Division 9 in Winston-Salem, and prior to that, during the 1990s, I served as the district engineer here in Reidsville, where I was involved in some of the initial planning work and construction work of the Ashcroft subdivision, both residential and the business side of that as well. LJB was hired by the developer to come in and do some analysis, traffic analysis of the potential impacts of their development off of Ashcroft Drive. And at that time, of course, it was specifically related to the intersection at Freeway Drive and Ashcroft. We did that. We took a look at the intersection, evaluated two things. First of all, we looked at the traffic forecast that NCDOT did for that intersection as part of the Freeway Drive widening project. We took that information and then also looked at the traffic memo that was done as part of the E.V. Wilkins development that you all have spoken about as well. We took all of that information, added the people that currently live in Ashcroft, and added the proposed number of homes that were going to be in the expansion or this new development that would utilize Ashcroft Drive. Once we looked at all that, we determined that the level of service at the Freeway Drive, Ashcroft Drive intersection would really not be impacted at all. It stayed at the same level of service, which is a level of service A, which is the best you can get, because DOT, when they did their initial studies, not only looked at the traffic or the development in Ashcroft there, they actually took into consideration the potential expansion, because their numbers actually consider development into year 2035. So basically, Our study confirmed what had already been done, that the existing intersection and the improvements that were made as part of the freeway drive widening were enough to accommodate not only the future development that's being proposed, but development into the future as well. DOT reviewed our impact analysis and agreed that no additional improvements would be needed at the Freeway Drive, Ashcroft Drive intersection. Now, subsequent to that, we were asked to look at the capacity of existing Ashcroft Drive, both today and the ability to carry the additional traffic generated by the additional homes in this proposed development. We looked at the information in the highway capacity manuals and the traffic generation tables on the capacity of two-lane roads. Now, in general, the capacity of two-lane roads, very conservatively, is about 6,000 cars per day. However, for local residential streets, those numbers are decreased significantly to anywhere from 1,500 to 2,000, primarily to keep quality of life for the residents in those areas, which has been discussed tonight. With the additional development, not only with the development we're talking about tonight, but we also looked at the development for E.V. Wilkins. The capacity of Ashcroft Drive, particularly from E.V. Wilkins to Freeway Drive, is more than enough to handle the additional traffic safely. It's important to know that over half of the additional development, or the homes, if you look at E.V. Wilkins development and the proposed development we're talking about tonight, more than half of that will be from the E.V. Wilkins development. If you look at Ashcroft Drive from E.V. Wilkins out to the current dead end where the existing home's located today, the additional traffic generated by the 106 homes there now would be far less than the 1,500 cars per day that is recommended to keep a good quality of life on a local residential road. And that is with looking at each home generating 10 trips per day, which is quite liberal. DOT, I think, looks at 7 houses or 7 trips per day. We analyzed it using 10 as sort of the higher end there. So based on that, we believe and have concluded that existing Ashcroft Drive at approximately 30 feet in width is more than adequate to handle safely the additional traffic generated by this proposed development. Other questions that you might have?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
For all of us, can you define the emergency exit? Who can use it, what it's designed for?
We were not asked to look at that, but my understanding and based on my experience with DOT is that those emergency accesses are solely for the use of emergency vehicle, fire, police, ambulances, sheriff, those type things, not routine traffic. I know that in my career at DOT, we did approve developments with those type of entities in there as well, for the reasons you're talking about tonight.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions?
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you all for your attention, your consideration of this project. Would submit this for your review and hopefully approval, and we'll be available in case council has any questions. Thank you.
All right, do we have any discussion?
I would just like to highlight.
Yes. Okay. Public hearing will close at 7:04.
I just want to highlight a couple things. You know, obviously, we've heard a lot of people speaking out in opposition of this. However, we don't get to interject our personal feelings towards this. We have criteria, guidelines, such as the attorney laid out, you know, the land use development, the zoning areas, and what falls within those. And if we make a bad decision and we go against something because it's our personal belief, but it fits these criteria, developers have the ability to file suit with this in Superior Court, which is typically overrode because they're going to meet the criteria set forth by our policies, our standards, our ordinances in Chapter 160D. So it's unfortunate that people are unhappy. However, we have to make the decision based off the facts presented, not people's feelings, and I'm sorry for that.
Any other discussion?
I have another question. But isn't it not correct that before this development finished, there could be some changes to the development?
Well, there could be, but from what I heard, the traffic engineer stated that in this development, they've took all those things into consideration. They calculated EV way, the emergency exit, the additional houses, the 100 houses, and all of those. So it sounds to me as if they've done their due diligence and their homework fully, and according to him, there is additional room for more growth based off of DOT standards. Is that not accurate?
Yes, that's accurate. So the concept plan grants them the conditions that were agreed upon in their application. So single family, they're going to provide the buffer as well as the accesses that have been discussed tonight, and the density of 106, updated from the original 101. So that locks them in to an extent. If they want to change some minor things, staff can approve that. Major deviations, if they were to go to 140, 150 units, that would come back to you for consideration. But generally speaking, there will be a review period after this hearing, after the hopeful approval of the project, where it'll go through rigorous review with TRC, and that involves engineering, public works, the planning and community development department, as well as fire and PD if necessary, to determine any potential conflicts there. So this is not the final rendition. They will have to go through that review process, but it should be very similar at the end.
Thank you. So at this point, there is no way that you would have an extra access, nothing at all?
I'm sorry, I only caught part of that.
So at this point, what you're saying is that the only other access still would be that emergency.
Yes, there's the two within the development off of Ashland once that's constructed, and then additionally one off of Ashcroft, and then the emergency access is just a short strip from the top of where Ashland is out to 158.
Okay. So the emergency access is here. They have just direction in that direction.
Yes, all traffic will not be funneled down Ashcroft. It can circulate amongst Ashland, towards Winterberry, back out towards E.V. Wilkins. There's a couple of options for circulation within the plan.
That's better. Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? What's the pleasure of council? Yeah. It's one inside the road. Right behind the memo.
I'll make the motion to recommend the proposed rezoning be approved for the specified parcels to the requested zoning district based upon the consistency and reasonableness determination statements that are included in the council agenda packet submitted during the rezoning presentation, and as may be amended, incorporated into the motion to be included into the minutes.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you. Next item, consideration of a rezoning request for 1122 Lawsonville Avenue, parcel number 158701, from conditional use zoning neighborhood business CZNB to residential agricultural 20, RA20, Z2026-03. Ms. Bigelow.
Thank you all again, and I'll give the audience a moment to exit. So as you've indicated, this is another rezoning request. This request is made by the property owner, Bradley S. Schneidecker, and he is petitioning to rezone a currently developed parcel. The parcel appears to have a single-family home on it. It is located at 1122 Lawsonville Avenue, parcel number 158701, from that conditional use neighborhood business to a conditional use, to straight residential agricultural 20. The parcel encompasses a small area. It's approximately 0.6 acres. And that conditional zoning that currently exists was provided prior to 2019, when special use permits and conditional zonings kind of became one thing. And it was provided to be a beauty salon. So it's no longer being used as a beauty salon. The structure that is there is a residential dwelling type structure. So the essence of this request is to revert back to the zoning district that it was previously, which was residential agricultural 20. That is the same district that surrounds this property. So it is no deviation from the surrounding area or the neighborhood. It's actually bringing it further into conformity. So he would like to renovate, the property owner would like to renovate the property and use it once more as a single-family dwelling. While it is located in our kind of rural growth management area district, that district is characterized by single-family, predominantly larger lot size, so this is not as typical, being that it is a 0.6 acre lot. But it is characterized by low-density single-family. So it's of staff's opinion that taking this property back to that residential agricultural 20 designation is most appropriate. And based on those findings, we recommend it be approved. And of course, I'll take questions.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bigelow. We'll open the public hearing at 7:11. Is there anyone who'd like to speak for? Is there anyone who'd like to speak against? We'll close the public hearing at 7:12. What's the pleasure of council?
Mayor, I'll make a motion to recommend the proposed rezone be approved for the specified parcels to the requested zoning district based upon the consistency, reasonableness, and determination statements that are included in the council agenda packet submitted during the rezoning presentation and as may be amended, incorporated into my motion to be included in the minutes.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Next item, consideration of a request to update the existing special use permit, SUP, for 1601 South Scale Street, Penrose Mall, specifically Rockingham County Tax Parcel number 184183, to incorporate recent amendments to the SUP standards for shopping centers, SP 2026-01, enclosure 4. Ms. Bigelow.
Thank you for the last time tonight, Mayor and Council. I appreciate your patience. As you noted, this is a request to amend an existing special use permit for the mall located at 1601 South Scales Street. Tom Holderby is the property owner and the requester for this amendment. Last month or so, you approved the changes to the special use permit standards for shopping centers to incorporate 2 additional uses, being event centers and vocational schools. This entire request is simply to update any existing special use permit standards to be in compliance to allow those 2 uses. It changes nothing else in regard to the existing permit none of the development standards. It does not strip the mall of any rights that it is currently enjoying to operate in the existing capacity. The only instance in which anything would change in that nature is should there be a significant expansion to the mall addition, and that would follow our typical processes for like a site plan review evaluation. I know there's been some maybe rumblings in the community that this would change things for the mall. It does not change anything with respect to the existing uses within the mall. It just adds those two on top, make sure that we have updated in compliant paperwork. We're in compliant with 160D to go through this process again when additional uses are added. That's all that is for. It does not change anything else in regard to the mall. Staff feels that the uses that have been presented are in compatibility with the uses existing at the mall. Since it was approved as part of the text amendment last month, again, this is just incorporating that. And I have taken any questions. I believe there is someone here to speak on behalf of Mr. Holderby. Should you have any questions for him?
I've got a question. So you said staff also recommends at the end of this, the use shall comply with the special use criteria for the shopping centers per the Reidsville zoning ordinance. So in the previous book, when you look at the new criteria versus what the mall fell under previously, there's like 31 items that fall under that. So what would be the intent of adding staff's recommendations if none of this is applicable at this present moment, unless there was going to be an expansion or a new structure built there, which then would require a rezoning? So why are we doing that when there's 31 items that by the 160D standards we would have to come into compliance with?
Because the mall appears to already be in compliance with those standards, generally speaking.
Generally speaking. But if they're not in compliance with these standards, then by law they would be required to comply with whichever ones of these are applicable. Is that not correct?
That would be the process for that. However, staff reviewed those standards and nothing stood out to us as being out of compliance.
Yeah.
We haven't been submitted a formal site plan with full detail from the applicant, so I do not know what the full intent is of the project, but based on the existing conditions, nothing stood out as being non-compliant.
Yes, so at that present moment, when we submitted, if he went back and submitted a full site plan, that's when we should be rezoning and asking the mall to come in compliance with this as it stands with this special use permit based off of this. If he's not making changes to the building or building new structures, I'm not really understanding why we would change the zoning compliance of that until the appropriate time is needed. So if he issues a site plan for a new structure, at that point in time, I believe that's when we would be rezoning the mall to come into these with standards. We could refer back to his attorney there that's here to speak, but in my experience, I think that's how that typically happens.
Sure, and you use the term rezoning, and that's not what we're doing here tonight. This is not a rezoning. This is not changing the underlying zoning designation. It's just adding at face value those two uses that were added to the standard.
Yes, so what does staff's recommendations get us at this present moment? What purpose does the use shall comply with the special use criteria shopping centers per the Reidsville zoning ordinance? Then when you look at our new shopping center zoning ordinance, there's 31 items, all the way pertaining from determination of trade area, present futures. It goes into dimensions of the property, location of proposed uses, as much as submitting drawings for traffic circulation, parking areas, pedestrian ways, landscaping, property buffers, even having to submit drawings for the existing infrastructure that is on there. So when you look at these items, I don't think we get the opportunity to pick and choose what we apply in there. So location of signage, lighting plans where applicable, erosion control, profile cross sections, on-site, off-site ditches. So if we grant this number 2, then he would have to come into compliance with these particular items.
If he made substantial changes to the mall to expand it, yes, sir.
Well, then I think at that point in time, that's when we would, ask for that rezoning. It would automatically trigger this if he was going to make substantial changes.
And I think it might help to clarify that we include this language on every special use permit you've ever approved. This language is always included. It serves as a assurance on our end that should the need arise, that language is in there. That language is a part of their approved permit. It's not a guarantee that there's going to be a change. It's not a guarantee that he has to provide some sort of updated plan or go through a review process.
It's also not a guarantee that he doesn't either, correct?
That would be up to the developer should he decide to make changes that would constitute that, yes, sir.
So technically, it could be different for everyone that applies.
That is 100%
So
correct.
the 30 or so, whatever it says, that must be followed, might not have to be followed by somebody else. Is that what you're saying?
If they already meet the standard. If they meet the standard, if they're not making any substantial changes that would cause this to go into effect, then they continue to operate as is.
So what creates those substantial changes that causes that to go into effect? In this case here, you said you've reviewed this, or staff's reviewed it.
An initial
At the
review.
present moment, in the initial review, you don't see anything.
That's correct, yeah.
So-
He's conveyed to us in the brief conversations that we've had that the general landscaping will remain the same. It appears to be compliant. There may be some things that come up with signage along the way as new tenants come into place, but nothing, again, significantly that stood out to staff as an issue. The parking is ample. Parking condition may need to be addressed, but the parking lot has an ample number of parking spaces. Should he build an additional structure or expand upon an additional structure, we could revisit what would be required. But as the mall stands with the current footprint, current landscaping, current parking, current list of uses, should these 2 uses be added, it's compliant. It wouldn't require any plan review, any submittal of plan review, not at the scale of a total site plan. I can't speak to the other departments, what they would require, but our department and TRC, generally speaking, wouldn't require those things. It does appear to be compliant as is, for all intents and purposes.
Any other questions? Thank you, Ms. Bigelow.
Thank you.
We'll open the public hearing at 7:21.
Sir, I'm sorry, I do need to swear you in.
Oh, okay.
Since it's a special use permit. Yeah. You say, everything you say today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes. Thank you for your patience with me this evening. For the record, I'm Mark Isaacson. My address is 804 Green Valley Road. I'm here on behalf of the property owner, Mr. Holderby. He did make application for this change in the special use permit after working with the planning staff. As we see it, the property is already zoned for the appropriate use. It has a base of zoning which allows the retail use and the other uses allowed in that category. And I'm speaking about this from some experience. I was chairman of the planning board in Greensboro for several years. So a special use permit is another layer of scrutiny that is provided to a jurisdiction. So the city, if this is property is subject to a special use permit, that triggers an extra layer of review. And that's what we have here. So it does have a special use permit. The text amendment that you all approved recently expands the number of uses in that zoning subject to that special use permit. Now, there's no assurance that those uses would be deployed for this property, but it does give the owner the option to expand or to utilize the property for those uses. And this is not uncommon in jurisdictions where you have a large, impactful use, such as a landfill or some other industrial use. I don't know that a mall is, in that same category, but under the Reidsville ordinance, that policy was determined some time ago that this property needed a special use permit in addition to the base level of zoning. And so to be able to expand the permitted uses under the zoning and the special use permit is just an opportunity for the owner to try to redevelop the property. It's what we call an adaptive reuse. Malls were invented, I guess, decades ago, and things have changed. As you heard, there's ample parking. Some malls are being converted. Big Kmart centers and so forth are being converted to take that. The infrastructure's there. So why not utilize the investment that the city has made, the state has made, and the owner has made to make that a better, more improved property to serve the area. And so with that, we would support and request approval of the application here.
Sounds to me like you have a very clear understanding of what's going on here. And I would like for you in the future, if Mr. Holeby has any question, if he would come directly to staff.
We will. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Anyone else who'd like to speak for? Is there anyone who'd like to speak against? Public hearing will close at 7:25. Before we can make a motion on this particular permit, special use permit, we have the 4 standards that we have to read and vote on each of the 4. Number 1, that the use will not materially endanger the public health or safety if located where proposed and developed according to the plan as submitted and approved. Do we agree? Raise your right hand. Okay. Number 2, that the uses will all require conditions and specifications, that the use meets all uses and conditions and special specifications. Those in favor? That the use will not substantially injure the value of adjoining or abutting property, or that the use is a public necessity. Those in favor? And finally, that the location and the character of the use is developed according to the plan as submitted and approved, will be in harmony with the area in which it is to be located and in general conformity with the comprehensive plan for Reidsville and its surroundings. We all approve. Okay. Now there's room for a motion.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the special use permit amendment request based on the findings of fact identified in the report as required for special use permit.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. We now move to our public comments section. The purpose of the public comment period shall be to allow members of the public to present any matter pertaining to city business or items on the city council agenda. This period shall not serve as a forum for debate between the speaker and the city council. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes and may only speak once at each meeting. Each speaker shall only make comments while at the podium after clearly stating his or her name and address. The topic must be something related to the business of Reidsville or something that the city council can have some influence or control over. Remarks shall be addressed to the city council and not to staff, the audience, or media. No remarks should be made on any matters pertaining to quasi-judicial hearings conducted by the council.
Speakers will not be allowed to campaign for public office, promote private businesses or ventures, or use language of a personal nature which insults or demeans any person, or which, when directed at a public official, is not related to his or her public duties. Actions by the council on topics raised under the public comment section should not be expected. Written comments may be accepted in lieu of oral statements and may be delivered personally or mailed to the city clerk at 230 West Moorhead Street, Reidsville, North Carolina. Is there anyone who would like to speak before council on tonight?
Good evening, Mayor, council members, and city staff. My name is Sharon Galloway. I reside at 832 Moore Street, Reidsville, North Carolina. I'm here tonight representing Tigers United, a youth organization that serves many children and families throughout our community through athletics, mentorship, and youth development opportunities. First, I would like to say I fully support opportunities for young people to participate in sports and have access to quality facilities. I also appreciate any investment being made into improving our local fields and recreational spaces. However, I would like to respectfully ask the council to carefully consider the long-term impact of this proposed lease agreement for J.C. Park Field 3 before making any final decision. Tigers United has utilized the JC fields during football season, particularly later in the season when daylight savings time, as our regular practice field doesn't have lights. Access to these fields have been extremely important to our family and our student athletes. Over the years, the Tigers United has also requested the opportunity to use Field 3 and was informed that the field was reserved and unavailable for use. It has also been challenging that when we have to reserve the field weekly, we have to do so one day at a time. Because of that history, I do have concerns about the long-term exclusive access to a city-owned field and what that could mean for other community organizations moving forward. It is also my understanding that Reidsville Middle School currently utilizes Field 1 for baseball activities. My concern is whether that proposed agreement could potentially limit future opportunities or flexibility for public school athletics, programs, and community organizations that may need access to these city-owned facilities. My concern is not about one organization using the field. My concern is about the proposal granting exclusive access for an extended period of time and what that could potentially mean for other youth programs, schools, and community organizations that also depend on these spaces. I would simply ask the council to consider a few questions before moving forward. How will this agreement impact future access for organizations like the Tigers United and Reidsville Middle School athletics? Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak before council?
Good evening. My name is Clint Franklin. I reside at 260 Lindsay Road in Reidsville. Good evening. Thank you for your time today. I come before you today to express my concerns regarding the availability and usage of city athletic fields. It has recently been brought to my attention that the Lucky's Fields in Reidsville.
We haven't even got to this enclosure item, so you guys are talking about something.
That's not a public hearing.
It's not?
No, they can speak. Public comments.
My time has still been going?
Go ahead.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, so it has recently been brought to my attention that the Lucky's Field in Reidsville is being considered for a lease agreement with a private school. For the past 2 years and even longer for other organizations, the two fields at JC Park, JC 1 and 2, have been the only fields available for public rental for practices. While the process has not always been easy, the baseball community has worked together to follow the procedures established by the City Council and the Recreation Department, which is typically you call up there on a Monday or you go up there on a Monday morning to reserve fields. This is the understood policy, and then everybody has followed it fairly. On numerous occasions when JC Park fields were unavailable, when I try to reserve them, the field would not, I was told either the Lucky's Field was not an option, the field is undergoing work for an upcoming lease, or most recently, like on this Monday, I was told, we do not rent that field out for practices. And this has been an ongoing thing for the last couple of years since I've been up here trying to use these facilities. This raises a major concern for me. If the field is now being considered for a lease agreement, why was this opportunity never openly communicated to the public or for Reidsville Middle School, who operates up there at those facilities already? I believe many organizations such as Reidsville Middle School, my own, Rally Monkey, some of the teams that are in this area would have absolutely been interested had we known that was even a possibility. At no point has this option ever been promoted, discussed publicly, or made equally to the community. I am also concerned about the impact this decision could have on the broader Reidsville community. Leasing a city-owned field to a private school could primarily benefit families associated with that school, some who may not even reside in the city. Meanwhile, the majority of the children and families in the Reidsville particular area would not have access to those public fields. And there's not a whole lot of facilities as is now to rent and use. As a proud supporter of public education, especially as my wife works within the public school system, I find it disheartening that the city would consider entering in such an agreement without fully considering the broader impact on the entire community. Public facilities should serve the public fairly and equitably. I respectfully ask that if the field is going to be offered for lease, the opportunity should be openly communicated and handled through a formal request for proposal process so that all invested organizations have an equal opportunity to apply. Consideration should be focused on organizations that openly serve the diverse population of Reidsville rather than promoting or benefiting only one demographic or socioeconomic group. As you guys can see, I have some of my team and the Crushers up front, right? We are navy and gold because we are Reidsville supporters, right? That's why our colors are that way, right? We feel like the public should have access to these facilities, and that's what we're trying to do.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your time.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak before council?
Good evening. My name is Clint Walker, 227 Niblick Drive, Summerfield. Thank you for allowing me to be here this evening. And I just want to start by saying I represent Freedom Academy. We're a private Christian ministry here in Reidsville, private Christian school. As you guys know, I've seen you a couple times now. We're building our permanent site on Vance Street Extension here in the city that's been annexed into the city. So we're thankful for your help and support on that. We are one of the fastest growing schools in the state of North Carolina right now. And we are preschool all the way through high school. So as you can imagine, interest in sports is a big thing, and athletics is huge. So we've committed at Freedom Academy to doing athletics as we're ready, keeping the main thing, and that being the Christ-centered education. But once we began to get ready, we introduced sports this year, and it is time now for us to take that next step. Baseball, basketball, soccer, these are all sports that we plan to introduce along with softball, wrestling, and some others. And this field that's being talked about tonight has sat empty for 2+ years, but I must say it's been very well maintained by our tax-paying dollars. There was a huge investment made into this property for the Reidsville Luckies, a private organization pro-am team that was here a couple years ago. You guys may recall, $200,000 of taxpayer money went into getting this field suitable for them. I think they used it for a year or two and then they left. Since then, I agree with these guys. That field's been sitting empty, vacant, and we've been told as well from a youth sports perspective that it is not available. But I want to be clear that I'm not here to talk about youth sports tonight. I'm here to talk about school sports. As it sits right now, that field is only designed to be used by high school baseball, and that is because it has an entirely grass infield, and there is not a lot of adjustment that can be made to the base paths to shrink it down for youth sports. So I'm a huge proponent of youth sports. Love a lot of these guys that are here. Agree with them that field use and access in our county is a problem, in our city as well. So I'm an advocate of what they do, love what they stand for, and we would not be opposed to future organizations, sports teams, whatever, having access to this field. But what's first and foremost important is an investment has to be made into this field to shrink it down in size. That's an investment that Freedom Academy was willing to make to this field to get it more suitable for more youth sports, more teams to be able to utilize it. So I'm not against anything that they say about the field. I've experienced that on the youth side with travel sports as well. But tonight I'm here to talk about high school sports, middle school baseball sports, and I think that this investment into this city facility that could be very, very nice needs to happen. It's sat vacant and empty for far too long. Thank you.
So anyone else who'd like to speak before council?
Good evening, Council. My name is Scott Strader. I reside at 391 Cook Flores Road, Reidsville, North Carolina. I help coach the middle school baseball team, and I've been a part of Reidsville baseball probably now for about 15, 16 years. It was brought to my attention that we're struggling to get numbers at Reidsville Middle School baseball. So we were almost 2 weeks not even having a season, okay? So myself and Coach Rodney Wood, which couldn't be here tonight, he had to work late, so we decided to take over and help out with Reidsville Middle School, because I take pride in Reidsville High School, Reidsville Middle School, and all Reidsville sports. As you see, a lot of these kids here, a lot of the Crushers and Freedom Team and Rally Monkeys, we all come to Reidsville, okay? So we all, want to funnel, my goal is to funnel my kids, my sons and daughters through Reidsville schools. It was great for me, and I love the school. But I do have an issue with utilizing the field. We have to call first thing in the morning, right, to get a field on Monday morning, to be able to get a field for Rally Monkeys or for Crushers or for any organization that wants to play baseball or football for that matter. Ms. Sharon was a really good speech, by the way, let me tell you. It's a challenge. We can't get access to the fields. If we get the fields, we're told they're already booked. Or anything on the weekends, we have some tournaments. We used to have weekend tournaments here from Perfect Game, different things, and utilize that field. Was able to use a high school field, and that field is used for middle school sports too. Right now we're at 54-80 on the pitch and in the mound, and we're getting ready to go to 69, and we were just told. So within Rockingham County Schools, so that can be utilized as high school and middle school, not just all for youth sports. It could be all the above if the bases are obviously moved, right? So I'm just here today that I feel like that I don't want to utilize one field. You're doing a long-term agreement with something like that, and I was a part owner of the Luckies, and we had a great organization in the city of Reidsville, and it was loved it. So a lot of you guys out there had a great time, and then Old North State pulled out with our college team and kind of left us high and dry with our older team, which that was a deal between the city and Old North State. So I'm just saying all this to say, please think about this. Think about anybody coming in and leasing the field for a long term. It really cuts out for the youth in the local areas, for us, for our kids, because that's what it's all for, is youth sports. It's just keep them out of trouble and enjoy the game of baseball, football, basketball, whatever else you want to. Because and I know that the city of Reidsville has always had some of the best rec sports in the country, in my opinion. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
So anyone else who'd like to speak before council? I right, seeing no one, we'll close the public comment section and move to new business. We have a presentation on SCAT bus and the other services ordered by Aging, Disabilities, and Transit Services of Rockingham County, ADTS. Enclosure 5 is Kathy Powers, Executive Director, and Ms. Megan Odell, Senior Director of Transit Services.
And Mayor and Council, if I may interject for a moment, we did ask these ladies to come tonight. This was a request from our last budget work session, just to be able to hear some of the services, and I think you guys had some questions as we go through budget this year. So thank you so much for coming out.
Thank you. Thank you for having us tonight. I'm Kathy Powers, the Executive Director with Aging, Disability, and Transit Services, and joining me is Megan Odell. Megan is our Senior Director of Transit. We appreciate the opportunity to speak to Council tonight and give an overview of the services that we provide across Rockingham County, specifically highlighting some of the partnerships that we've had with the City of Reidsville, because we have had a very long time, very successful relationship with the city, and we would like to highlight some of those partnerships. Our agency has provided services across Rockingham County for 53 years. While we are headquartered here in Reidsville on Lawsonville Avenue, we have around 300 staff working across the county in our various services. I believe you all received an insert tonight in your packet that provides some details about the programs that we offer, as well as hitting some of the service statistics. Megan and I are happy to answer any questions that you have about that information, but before we do that, we certainly wanted to provide just a very brief overview of the services that we provide. I'd like to start with the LEAF Center. That's our duly licensed adult day care, adult day health program that is housed at your very own R-Care Senior Center. Adult day services are structured daytime supports that support individuals with physical or cognitive impairments, while also offering an opportunity for respite for their caregivers that are providing the care, and we know that that's a big need in the community. We've had a lot of recent investments in the LEAF Center. We have purchased some software and invested in some programming over the last couple of years, specifically for individuals with Alzheimer's and dementia, which we know is a major need locally, and that's something that we're really excited about. We would invite all of the council members out to tour the facility and just lay eyes on that, as well as helping us to spread the word in the community. That's an underutilized resource, and it has been first of its kind in the state. We're a senior center, and or where a city has partnered with a nonprofit to house senior services across the spectrum under one location, and it's definitely something we're very proud of. At the R-Care facility, we are also administrating the Meals with Friends program. That's a senior congregate nutrition program, one of two that we administer across the county. That's providing not only a hot meal Monday through Thursday for older adults, but also social engagement and education opportunities. In addition to that, we provide Meals on Wheels across the county. We currently have around 260 people that are receiving Meals on Wheels here locally in Reidsville. We have 4 hot routes that run Monday through Friday within city limits, and then an additional 4 routes that operate in the rural area of Reidsville. We also have a home care program where a team of personal care attendants and certified nursing assistants work under the direction of registered nurses to provide individualized, personalized care in the homes of older adults to assist with things like bathing, feeding, and dressing, really just to make sure that the person is aging safely in their home. In addition to that, we have a case management program where we have a team of social workers and nurses who are working through the Medicaid waiver program to work with about 340 people countywide that qualify for nursing facility level of care, but instead want to remain active in their community as they age. So we coordinate the services to make sure that they're able to safely do so. And of course, transportation is a critical piece of what we do, and you know, we know that it's very important for people across the board. We've had some pretty exciting advancements in the transportation space over the last couple of years. And so I'm going to turn it over to Megan, who can talk about the transportation division as well as highlight some of the local impact.
So transportation is much more than just getting access to one place or another. It's about creating relationships. It's about access to healthcare. It's about access to employment, socialization, especially for our senior community. ADTS operates several transportation programs throughout the county, including our RCAPS demand response fleet, which is 23 lift-equipped vehicles. And they primarily provide medical transportation, but do provide a little bit of other life-sustaining grocery store visits and things like that. We also recently implemented Local Link Microtransit, which is an Uber-esque. That's kind of how we market it, is sort of like Uber. It's a same-day ride service that offers app-based scheduling for a flat fee of $5 each way. So people can download the app, schedule a ride, and get it same day. But tonight, however, I want to especially highlight the Reidsville Scat Bus deviated fixed route service that you guys so graciously have supported since its implementation in August of 2014. To date, we've provided over 100,000 one-way trips on that Scat Bus route just in Reidsville alone, which is incredible. Kudos to, to everybody involved. The top 5 stops along Reidsville's route currently today are Walmart, the public library, the Art Care Center, RHS apartment area, Woodland Apartments, and the Food Line on Business 29. So that's just reflecting the daily needs of the citizens in Reidsville and where they're getting to and accessing the bus. The impact of the Reidsville route is seen every day. We have students who use the Scat Bus and the connector services to attend Rockingham Community College. We have at least 12 individuals in the city of Reidsville who are currently relying on this route to maintain employment every day. So they're getting to work via the Scat Bus. And then we have seniors who no longer drive who are still able to remain active and engaged in the community. We have built strong partnerships with organizations such as Project Reentry, NC Works, Daymark Recovery Services, and DSS, who have all found that the Scat Bus is an important way of getting their people and participants where they need to go. The Scat Bus currently operates Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. And while expanded hours are always discussed, we're always looking at those weekend service hours and after hours. We believe that the current schedule allows us to serve the greatest demand while remaining fiscally responsible and avoiding increased operating costs at this time. We also continue modernizing the system. Since January 2026, riders have been able to track the buses in real time using an app called Passio Go. And we're now utilizing automatic passenger counting technology to improve ridership tracking and future planning efforts. So we're able to see real time who's getting on the vehicle, what those numbers look like. So on behalf of Kathy and myself, thank you for your partnership in all of our services, particularly the Scat Bus, since that's my world. And we're happy to answer any questions if you guys have any.
Want to have any questions?
I have a question, please. On the handout that we have, it has the Reidsville specific impact for 2025, averaging 967 to 1,100 trips per month, averaging 47 riders a day. How did you get those numbers?
Through our automatic passenger count now. Okay. We were having to do that manually, so drivers were having to tick each person that got on and each person that got off. So now, since January 2026, we've been able to get the automatic passenger count. So we know what stops are being heavily utilized, where people are getting on and where people are getting off.
So what's an average trip in miles?
So the Scat Bus in Reidsville has approximately 20 stops, and it runs starts here at actually the public library and runs in an hour loop. And so there are stops all along the way, Belvedere Apartments, places on Freeway Drive, things like that. An average time span that somebody spends on a bus to get to where they're going is probably about 10 minutes because most people have planned it out they're going to get on and get off. If they do the connector service, which we use transfer points at Walmart to ride out to Wentworth, or if they're trying to get to one of the other communities, that takes a little bit longer, obviously. But the total mileage that we run every day is 213 miles divided by the 9 hours that we do. So I'm not sure exactly what that is per hour, but but that's the mileage that we do an hour.
So, and for a normal route, it's a $1 fare, right?
Yes.
So, do they have cards, or do they actually give you $1, or how
They
does that
do
work?
$1. We have fare boxes, and they do $1. We also sell passes, so they can buy a 10 ride pass, which gets them 10 punches that they can just continually utilize. We have a monthly pass that we sell, which is $35, and that's unlimited. They can ride anywhere on any of the connectors for $35, which really pays for itself with the people who are using it for employment and RCC. They can use that up in about a week. But so currently it's either the cash or buying the passes.
And do you currently take sponsorships, or if I wanted to donate passes to someone, I could do that?
You could certainly buy passes for people, yes. And the bus driver is very aware of people who could utilize those, so yes.
Thank you.
Have you started getting requests for after hours rather than beyond 4 o'clock?
We have not gotten any requests after 4 o'clock. We shrunk our time during COVID. I think COVID's the blame for a lot of things that changed. So we were operating on Saturdays and we were operating after 4 o'clock. But when things kind of shut down early, we started to shut down too. And the entire time that we ran in Reidsville on Saturdays, we didn't have a lot of people that would ride. I think people find that their families are available for them to take them places, on our neighbors or whoever. So we have not had any requests. I think most people have built their life around when it actually runs. So.
Any other questions?
Thank
you,
you
ladies.
very much. Thank you.
Good seeing you.
Next item, consideration of a request by Freedom Academy to lease J.C. Field number 3, enclosure 6. Mr. Haywood Cloud, Jr.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. If I may, just take a moment. I want to thank everyone in the audience who come out to speak on this topic tonight. And I think just listening to some of the feedback from our community members and from the proposed leasee, it would be staff's recommendation maybe to hold that item and let us sit and talk, because there seems like there's a real need for the community to look at better ways we can utilize those fields and look at ways we can maybe do better accommodations and maybe how we're doing our whole process. So that would be kind of my suggestion from staff standpoint after hearing some of these concerns from the residents and our community members. So thank you guys for staying around, our younger athletes tonight. That would just be our suggestion, is let us see what we can do and maybe meet with some of the parents and with the proposed leasee and just see what's the best way we can utilize these public fields for everyone and bring back some ideas.
Okay. Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody.
Even if we're doing that, I've got a couple of comments, as I think this is the appropriate time to discuss the direction of staff and what we would be doing. So I've took notes as everybody has spoken here, and I have a couple questions. In the past, when we have leased out the field, was there an RFP sent out? Did we do RFPs like for the concession stands and so forth? That'd be one. You'll have to answer them all, and then I can just have a couple of suggestions, you know.
Yeah, that's great.
And so I know that we've had many discussions at the Carriage House during the retreats several months back, and when this became an issue that arose last year with the multiple teams, I mentioned and brought up the field, the single field that is in discussion at this present moment. And we talked about what does it hurt to allow people to utilize those fields for practices during that time. And it was my understanding when we left out of that meeting that for practice purposes only, that we would allow that field to be used and teams would improvise with the bases, because you guys, Parks and Rec, brought up the fact that the bases didn't conform to the younger teams because they were much larger, but during practice, and I thought that suggestion was given out to utilize that. The other thing that I also have to say is, I know Eden just leased out their park for roughly $50,000. to a facility to host ball tournaments, and they did not give exclusive rights to that team. They have the exclusive rights for 13 or 14 tournaments for the year, and that's a far difference in the dollar amount of $50,000 to roughly $6,000 that we would be receiving based off of the proposed contract here, with exclusive rights to one facility, as well as we're responsible for maintenance and upkeep. So if people are paying this kind of money and then citizens still get the ability to utilize this field, whether it be practicing in the off day, I think that would be of the best use of the taxpayers' fields, money, and all of those things. So I don't know how we get that or how they got that lease or if that's done through RFPs, but I think that's certainly something we need to do. We also discussed the conditions of the fields during that time, during this retreat. We talked about the single ball field. I think it's called Oak Hill or something over off of King Street. We were supposed to look in to lights, seating, and restroom facilities. I know when myself and Ms. Scoble just got back from the conference, one of the things that we received information on through the leagues is that there are multiple grant opportunities for these ball fields, for lighting, for seating, and for restrooms. We just have to make the request to see about funding that. And if we're going to do a single lease on a ball field, for one single, which is what Mr. Walker is requesting, it would be, of my opinion, that you would lease the one single field that needs in dire need of investment and upkeep now, and I think it minimizes that impact, and it allows the ability for this community to host tournaments such as like Summerfield Ballpark is doing, which that's what Eden has taken advantage of. And we did have several conversations about these in the past, and I think that we need to look into these particular items. And I do believe that people, probably Clint, Scott, and them could tell us how these contracts are given, such as the one that Eden's got. It's my understanding there's a couple of different organizations that kind of round that up, and then they pay us the money. And so I think the end goal here is to help a school out with a ball field that's much needed. We have a single ball field we can invest in, and we should also start allowing the community to improvise and practice, whether it be baseball on that field, they can improvise. They've got portable bases. I don't think they care if there's grass, how far the grass is during practice. I know that I've spoken to part of her, Ms. Galloway's members, football and all these different things that we are having these struggles at these teams. They have been utilizing the baseball fields for the football practice as well. So I can't believe that after the retreat meeting that we still hadn't started to utilize that single field, and we've left it vacant since that prior conversation when I thought that they were going to have the opportunity to use it. I thought that was the consensus of council as a whole that day.
Actually, that is incorrect. We weren't allowed practicing on the field simply because of our grounds crew and them telling us how difficult it was to keep that up with people on it all week and for it to keep it pristine. But we have allowed it for those who wanted to make changes to it for tournaments on the weekend. Just about every tournament last fall and the summer and last fall, the softball, the adult softball, they used it. And they adjusted the bases. So it has been used, but we weren't, because how difficult it is to keep that particular field maintained, different from field 1 and 2, which you just have to drag and paint. You have to rebuild the batter's box, the mound. You have it's a clay batter's box, is it not? And so we were trying to protect the city's investment. We spent close to $200,000 on getting that field ready for the Luckies, and they used it for 2 years. And so when the Luckies left in 2023, we entertained 2 different groups who one talked about buying the Luckies and continuing doing it. We entertained them during that process. We were keeping them off the field for practice. But we were allowing people who wanted to make adjustment to it for tournaments to use with the other 2 fields. Youth teams that we talked to, or youth tournament directors, they didn't want that. The ones we talked to, they did not want to move those bases and use that infield, so they only used the other 2 fields. Then there was a second group that came that went on we waited to hear back from them. They never came back. Then there was a second group that were going to do a high school version of what the Luckies were doing. We waited on them again. Staff having to keep that field up on the inside. I mean, that field is far different than those other two. It takes them about an hour and 40, almost 2 hours to bring that field back up to standard when it's time for someone to use it for, if we allow practice on it, for someone to use it for the weekend. The other two, it only takes 45 minutes. And so given the money we spent on getting that field ready for the Luckies, we were trying to protect the city's investment and the taxpayers' investment to
So my question is, I understand you, but based off of this contract, we're responsible for upkeep. So if it's 2 hours of upkeep and these guys are utilizing this field daily and have exclusive rights and we spent $200,000 on it, how do we justify a lease presentation of right at $6,000? If we're talking about $200,000 and we're responsible daily for the maintenance of the field. It's in this lease agreement, right?
Right.
And we estimated that at $25 a day. So that means daily we would have to rework that field for $25, and you have exclusive rights. We're getting $25.
Yeah, but
see what I'm saying?
Mayor and Council, if I may, staff doesn't have the authority to enter into lease agreements. This was simply something that I believe when I was out on leave, one moment, please. Okay. When I was out on leave, this got brought to the staff's attention. Since staff cannot enter into lease agreements, this was put on for a discussion item. Mm-hmm. It sounds like there is some community investment in this that I feel like needs to be heard more. Right. And therefore we can certainly take those recommendations. It may be helpful to have a public input and comment session and invite those different teams to come out and tell us what they would like to see. But again, staff is not proposing this lease agreement. This was something that staff was approached, and staff does not have the authority to enter into leases, so we brought it to the proper channel.
And staff is not advocating for us one way or another. We just presented, as Summer said, to you all once somebody was presented to us.
And this will help us clear up some of the misinformation that's been put out in the public. And it'll be better communication and understanding of what's going on.
I don't disagree with this, but I think this would be the appropriate time for staff and council to have the discussions and the potential options to send a direction for council to send a direction of staff, and also give some ideas such as what I stated is taking place with this. So I felt that this is the appropriate time to bring these comments up. If this is presented for discussion, then now is the time for the discussion.
Not tonight.
Have it tonight.
Not tonight.
Mayor and Council, it's certainly up to you. After hearing the public, I just thought it might be helpful to ask to do a public input session and make sure we're capturizing what they're asking for.
We'll do that at a later date.
I certainly agree.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
So how will we notify them when we have this public comments?
We have people here that we can invite.
Okay. Maybe talk with the managers and see when it'd be a good time and then set a date.
That can be done.
Mayor and Council, we certainly can. I know I've got a great relationship with Ms. Galloway and some other members of the team, and I'm certainly can work with Mr. Strader, potential leasee as well back in the back. Let us get some dates together, throw some dates out there, and just hear your ideas. I mean, it's a public field with public taxpayer dollars. What do you want to see with it?
Thank you.
Mayor Moore, since the council earlier approved the agenda, it'd be appropriate to make some type of motion to stay this or to just remove it from the agenda for discussion.
Okay. Can we get a motion to move item B from new business?
I'll make that motion. Move it. And discuss at a later date and time.
Okay.
To allow staff to work on it.
Have a second? Okay. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All right, thank you. At this time, we're going to have about a 15-minute break. All right, the next item on the agenda is review of proposed 2026-27 fiscal year budget with public hearing to be held June 9th, 2026. We have a separate enclosure, which should be in front of you. Manager?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. And I also, so you have your, now this is just the proposed budget, but you have your proposed budget notebooks, and then you also have before you just a PowerPoint that I'll go over tonight and just hit some of our highlights. Nothing of significance has changed at all since our last budget work session, but first and foremost, I want to thank you so much for the opportunity to present this upcoming proposed fiscal year budget. I'm very excited to say I've been here almost 5 years next month, and it's been a wonderful 5 years, and I appreciate each and every one of you. And I appreciate all our teammates and our staff and our community. You've really made Reidsville home for me and my family, so thank you. With that, I just want to go over the overview, and I believe the PowerPoint, you should be able, I guess our viewers can see it at some point. If not, it will be available for public inspection. But the objective of this proposed budget is to ensure the needs of all citizens are met in a cost-effective manner. The proposed citywide budget for fiscal year 26-27 is $42,507,050 versus fiscal year 25-26 amount of $41,201,600. So this is a budget increase of $1,305,450 or 3.17%, which is related to increased personnel cost and departmental operations. Property taxes. This fiscal year 26-27 proposed budget recommends the general fund's tax rate remain the same as the current 25-26 rate of 0.66 cents per $100 evaluation. Current year ad valorem taxes are projected to increase about $800,000, and that's 7.18%. This is due to new housing and industrial developments in Reidsville. The new apartments on Barn Streets are valued at approximately $25 million, which generates about $165,000 in additional revenue to the city's tax base. Two industries and their estimated investment in Reidsville will generate approximately $133,000 in additional revenue. Also, new residential infill development is a contributing factor to the increase, and as we've heard here tonight, there's even more homes looking to come to our area. So it's really exciting to see Reidsville growing, and we can see that reflected in our tax rate. Again, tax rate is proposed to remain the same, so no proposed increase this year. I do want to hit some of the highlights of our general fund revenues. Sales tax is projected to increase $163,000 or 3%. Utility sales tax is projected to increase $15,250 or 0.96%. Tipping tax is projected to increase $1,000 or 11.11%. Building inspection fees are projected to increase $30,000, which is 15%. Our school resource officer reimbursement will decrease $53,000. And I do want to just briefly touch on that. I know we touched on it a little bit at our last budget work session, but that is because of the consolidation temporarily for between Mall Street and South End with what they've got going on with building the new school. So you will see a decrease in there. Our current officer, we will reallocate that. I know Chief Gibson has discussed that, where we'll have they'll backfill our downtown officer position. Howville is projected to increase $10,000 or 1.82%. The landfill tipping fee is projected to increase $31,750. And our cell tower lease is projected to increase $2,500. So general fund revenues are projected to increase $1,210,500 or 5.24%. Parks and Rec. All revenues are projected to remain the same for Parks and Rec, and all fees are recommended to remain the same as the current 25-26 budget. So we're not recommending any fee increases in Parks and Rec. So the total recommended budget for this fund is $2,248,500. Other funds. Reidsville Downtown Corporation budget is projected to remain the same as budget year 25-26. The total proposed budget is $13,950. Our garage fund is projected to increase $14,850. Our insurance fund is projected to remain the same as budget year 25-27. Total proposed budget is $662,600. And our LEO, which is our Law Enforcement Officer Separation Allowance Fund, is projected to increase $24,400. Investing in our team. This budget proposes a 3% cost of living adjustment or a COLA for all full-time employees. The cost to implement this is $464,100. According to the Consumer Price Index, as of March 2026, prices increased 3.3% over the past year. This budget includes the implementation also of a career ladder. The cost to implement the career ladder is $227,110. On a side note, I did a little bit of research, and it's more in my budget message, but this is just of interest. Inflation looking back at December of 2020, an item that would cost you $20 in 2020, the same item would now be $24.49. So that just goes to show you how inflation is still going through our economy. This budget does not include a merit raise. However, a merit bonus is proposed instead. The bonus will be looked at between July 1st to December 31st of 2026, and funding for the merit bonus would be funded through the carryover process. Employees could receive up to a 2% merit bonus. This budget also includes $494,125 from the implementation of the Piedmont Triad Regional Council pay plan for the fire department and all other group. This proposed budget includes one additional voting holiday and one personal day, which is the same as the current budget. So we do appreciate council and mayor giving us the direction to ensure that we're investing in our team. And that's what we're proud to show that this budget does look at. Next slide we have is personnel. This proposed budget includes 199 full-time positions, 74 part-time, and 25 seasonal employees. No new positions have been added to this proposed budget. One civil engineering position has been frozen this budget year in the amount of $133,000 in order to balance the fiscal year 25-27 proposed budget. Employee benefits. The city participates in the local government employees retirement system, otherwise known as ELTERS, which is administered by the NC State Treasurer. The rate for general employees will increase from 14.35% to 15.10%, and the rate for law enforcement will increase from 16.1% to 17.1%. The change in rates represents an $86,000 increase for this proposed budget. The city's health insurance will remain the same through InChip. The insurance provider will continue to be Blue Cross Blue Shield. The renewal for the second year coverage is a 6% increase. That is much better than some of our peer groups did. Excuse me, I apologize. The cost of this increase for 26-27 is $110,000. This proposed budget has absorbed this increase, allowing employees to continue coverage at no cost. Rates to electively cover spouses and/or dependents did increase by the 6% for employees. The 6% increase resulted in a $500 budgeted increase in cost per employee and eligible retirees, bringing the annual cost per participant to $14,000. This increase again represents a $110,000 increase for this proposed budget. Capital outlay request for general fund. We touched on this in great detail at our last budget work session. All general fund capital has been cut from this proposed budget. Capital outlay of $1,029,120 was requested for this proposed budget. On the next slide, $990,896 is recommended utilizing the expected expenditure surpluses for the 25-26 budget. I am so sorry, I've got a tickle. Carryover funding will be considered this fall. Additional capital outlay cuts may be needed during carryover. I will not go over these as we went over these in great detail for a capital outlay request for general fund at our last meeting. The next page as well is a continuation of those capital outlay requests, and those totals give you the $990,896. Parks and Rec, this fund remains largely the same as last year with an overall increase of $55,700. This is related primarily to personnel increases due to COLA, career ladder, and pay plan. All capital has also been cut. Capital outlay of $371,200 was requested. On the next slide, $351,200 is recommended using expenditure surpluses. Carryover funding will be considered this fall, and additional capital outlay cuts may be needed during carryover. And again, Dave cough drop. I'm so sorry. Thank you, Ms. Barbara. On the next couple pages, this budget got me choked up. The next couple pages and slides, capital outlay requests for Parks and Rec. Again, these were all things shown to you during our last budget work session. Same thing on the second page, which gives you the total of $351,200. Municipal Service District tax. The current tax rate of 0.25 cents per $100 evaluation is recommended for the MSD tax, so no change there. And the Reidsville Downtown Corporation acts as the City Main Street Advisory Board, and we appreciate their partnership. The next slide of interest for our council and our citizens is utility rates. The City of Reidsville contracted with McGill Engineering in 24-25 budget to complete a CIP plan. This plan took an in-depth look into the current and future needs of our water and wastewater system. The CIP looked at what our city's utility rates needed to be in order to operate. This proposed budget does not propose a utility rate increase. Residents and businesses are being stretched thin with higher prices on everyday goods and services. Therefore, no utility rate. I've got everybody choked up. I'm sorry.
That's a good budget.
Wow. 16 years, this is new. Therefore, no utility rate increase is recommended for the 26-27 budget. However, the city will need to look at utility rates in the future, but no increase this year. Water and Sewer Enterprise Fund, all utility revenues are projected to remain the same, and there are no proposed fee increases for this fund. Expenditures. The combined enterprise fund did not see an increase in expenditures in the proposed budget of $14,232,550. The proposed budget was able to absorb the COLA, career ladder, and general operating costs by reducing the capital outlay. The water system capital outlay request totaled $1,389,700, and the sewer system capital outlay request are $2,638,850. Again, I won't go into detail. These are the same things that we talked about at our last budget work session. Water capital came in at $174,450. That's what's proposed that we can pay for this proposed budget. Sewer, kind of the same thing. The sewer collection division vac truck in the amount of $585,000 is recommended to be funded by financing, with the vac truck being recommended through other funding options. The total proposed sewer capital outlay is $581,350 that we can look at in this proposed budget. Just a couple more slides. Debt service. The general fund and Parks and Rec fund have a total fiscal year 26-27 beginning balance of $6,796,663. Debt service payments for fiscal year 26-27 total $771,519. The combined enterprise fund for this proposed fiscal year estimated beginning debt balance of $25,645,338 with potential debt service of $2,304,285 scheduled to be paid. And most of that debt is through your CIP plan through those large projects we funded. In process are capital projects, the redundant water line and the water treatment plant whole generator have been awarded grants and low interest loans that total $10,652,000. Estimated debt service of $627,124 for this future debt has been included in the proposed budget. And then in 2012 and 2013 revenue bonds issuing of the City of Reidsville have debt covenants that must be considered along with issuing any new debt financing with the ability to pay the related debt service. At any point, debt financing remains a viable method to improve the city's existing infrastructure. So in summary, this budget for fiscal year 26-27 is balanced as required by law, and the fiscal year 26-27 budget proposal involved a lot of teamwork by the management team and many others. Assistant City Manager Finance Director Chris Phillips is to be commended for his and his department's hard work and financial resilience in assisting with the preparation of this budget. Also, Assistant City Managers Haywood Cloud and Chief Josh Farmer are also to be commended for their assistance in this proposed budget. And I'd also like to thank our City Clerk Angela Stadler and our Deputy City Clerk Latasha Wade for their hard work and commitment in preparing the budget notebooks. And I'd also like to thank Mayor Gorham and all of our City Council members for allowing us the opportunity to present this budget and for giving us directives on what you want to see for our community. So thank you so much. Any questions at this time?
A lot of work was put into that, and so we appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you. One thing to consider, again, nothing, as you can see, has changed since our last budget work session, but Angela and I can work on maybe sending out a poll. If you want to take a couple days to look over this, if you would like to have a budget work session next Tuesday, May the 19th, if you could just maybe let us know, or if you feel like enough information has been presented tonight, we would go for public hearing in June.
Can you answer that now?
I'm satisfied.
And at any time, if you see anything as you take your notebooks and your budget work session PowerPoint home, feel free to give me a call. I'm happy to go over anything with you guys, but again, nothing really has changed since our last budget work session that we did. Well, with that, this will be available for inspection. I believe we have it tomorrow, Miss Angela?
For the
public.
Well, actually, we'll probably take it to the public, but it will be here available at City Hall, but we'll take it to the library and everything. We usually wait to get the ABC board's information, and we're expecting that within the next week or two.
Perfect. So we will have it available for public inspection, but with that, we'll move forward with our public hearing in June. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you. Question, you mentioned the ABC board, and I don't know if this is the appropriate time, but I've had some of the ABC board members approach me, and I can't keep up with everybody's name, but they were talking about the amount of pay, and there is, I had notes, I didn't bring them, but the one ABC board member has to do essentially finance work weekly, sign checks, and those kind of things, and the ask was to increase his pay because it takes multiple hours out of his time. So I did a little bit of research on that, and there is a limit on that. I think it's of 150 per meeting. So I don't know when the appropriate time is to discuss the compensation for that one individual board member.
So,
have you heard anything about this?
I have. Our liaison, Ms. Scoble, brought that to my attention. What I could do, if it would be helpful, I believe there was some discussion back prior to my arrival, I believe 2019 and 2020, about that. I'm happy to share that with council. I sent Ms. Scoble some information. I can share that with all of council as well. And Mayor and Bill, I'll refer to you as far as when you guys want to discuss that. Just because I wasn't, again, just kind of coming in on the back end of some of the minutes I had read.
So it's my understanding, I think they meet monthly.
Yes, sir.
Each member gets $75, I believe. 50. Okay, yeah. But then the chairman of the board has weekly work with zero compensation. He has to sign all the checks, check over the financial oversight, and he still only gets the 50. So I kind of looked at that in the same term as the council's compensation versus the mayor's compensation, and we look at what the state statute allows. And I believe it, if I recall correctly, it was 150 per meeting. So if we gave him the 150 per meeting, that would offset some compensation for his weekly time.
But we wouldn't be giving it to them because it comes out of their own budget. It comes out of their sales. It's their budget. It's not the city money.
Yeah, but it's set by, and I've got some, I've done some research in the law, but I'm sure anybody can do that, It's capped at, I believe, the 150 a meeting.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you bringing that up. I'll defer to our city attorney on that because Ms. Scoble is correct. It comes out of their budgets. I'm a little...
Yeah, I'll take a look at it. Yeah. I'd like to see from the 2018 on, whatever you got from the past, and then I'll look at staff.
We can pull some of that. Okay. That just reminded me.
That's perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Manager Moore. Next item on the agenda, consideration of resolution accepting $500,000 principal forgiveness loan from the NC Department of Environmental Quality for lead service line inventory project and related budget ordinance and foreclosure 7. Assistant City Manager Chris.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To be honest with you, this feels a little bit like Groundhog Day. I know I've been up here talking to you about this lead service line inventory before. We have two funding sources from the state. There was $150,000 that had a $90,000 loan forgiveness, and then there was a $500,000 that was 100% loan forgiveness loan. So 100% makes it basically a grant that was given to us as well. You all may remember that there was some federal legislation on lead service lines, really to try to figure out the lines that go in the individual homes. So the city's lines are not made of lead, but we do not know with the age of the homes in Reidsville who has lead lines and who does not. And I know you've all gotten at your house the flyers asking about lead lines, and we get calls on it because, try not to alarm anyone, but that is the requirement of the law. So to try to dig a little further to folks that aren't sure and that may eventually have to do some testing is what this $500,000 is for. And I know we've talked about it, but apparently we never actually approved the resolution for the $500,000, and we've had some turnover in folks that have worked on this at Public Works. So we just want to make sure that we officially approve the resolution to accept the $500,000 principal forgiveness loan, so we can get that back to DEQ so that we can get the project moving forward. So that's what it is tonight. I'll be glad to try to answer any questions, but this is what it takes to get somebody to give you $500,000. So,
any questions?
We've had a conversation.
Okay. Can we get a motion then?
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution to accept the $500,000 principal forgiveness loan from NCDEQ for the lead service line inventory project related budget ordinance amendments.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Chris, do you need a this budget ordinance?
Well, the motion included the budget ordinance amendment, which is for the $500,000.
Okay. Consideration of proposal for finance purchase of a public works vehicle and a fire engine totaling $1,553,600. Enclosure 8. Chris Phillips, Assistant City Manager.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, we just talked about budget, and just to let you know that these financing items were included in the budget that was presented to you. So we anticipated that you all would approve this financing for some capital items from the current year. It's actually for glasses out here. It's actually for a rear loader for sanitation, backhoe for street department, a one-arm bandit garbage truck. So the rear loader is $235,000, backhoe is $146,600, and the one-arm bandit is $422,000. So those public works items total $803,600, and we're going to look to finance that for 5 years. Obviously, these vehicles will last much longer than 5 years, and even though they're used every day, and they're well maintained, they're well built to begin with. So we'll pay for them for 5 years, use them for maybe closer to 10, and then be able to do some more purchasing as these loans roll off. We do have a couple of loans that are ending either in the current year or next year, so this kind of will take the place of some of those. But we sent out an RFP to all the local banks, and we did receive 3 proposals back, which We usually only get 2 or 3, honestly, but this year Home Trust is the only one that had proposed in the past. Pinnacle Bank was new to propose for us, and Base Zone, which we did not solicit. I'm not sure how they, I guess, where advertising works, so they picked up on it. They proposed as well, but recommended to go with Pinnacle Bank. They had the best rate. For 5 years, the rate was 3.56%, which would make the payment $178,554 a year. Total interest for the 5 years would be $89,000. Was hoping for a little better interest rate than that, but you never know till you send them out. And of course, the way things are right now, 3.56 is where it came back, and we factor that into the budget, as I said a moment ago. Likewise, we are looking to finance a fire engine. You all may remember that the fire engine was ordered some time ago. It's about a 4-year lead time, so thank goodness that Chief Farmer and his folks there have the foresight to realize they're going to need a fire truck 4 years before they have to order it. So we are expecting that fire truck to come in within the next year, probably next spring. We went ahead and did the financing for it with this other financing to try to lock in a rate. At the time, we thought it was going to be in sooner than that, but it looks like it will be a year. So the loan proceeds will go into escrow, so when the truck comes, we'll be able to access the money. Recommending going with Pinnacle. Again, they have the lowest rate. Looking at 10 years for this one to make it a little more affordable, but it's a 4.01% for 10 years. The payment would be $92,377 a year. Total interest over the 10-year period, we would pay $173,770 in interest for that. Obviously, 10 years is a long time, but it's an expensive truck, and we will have other needs in the fire department over the next 10 years. So we spread it out to try to make it a little bit more affordable. The truck will last probably 20 years. We'll challenge them to use it for 20 years. I think we've got some now that we've used that long or longer. And a lot of times what happens is we use them for 20 years, but they go into a backup position. So they're not necessarily online for the full 20 years. But fortunately, fire trucks are pretty well made, and the guys take pride in it, so they take good care of it, and they last for a good long time. But what we're asking is, again, the backup for all this is in here, but you'll be approving the financing for these vehicles, and there is a budget ordinance amendment as well that recognizes the financing and the ability to use it. The budget ordinance amendment is for less than the total financing because we already had some of these numbers incorporated in the budget. So it was really for the budget ordinance is for $753,000, and not the full amount because again, it's what we needed to finish out the purchases. So that's it.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So when we get our new fire truck, the one that we currently have will go into a backup position. The one that's in our backup position, what happens to it?
I don't want to speak for the guys. We do sell them from time to time. The last time we sold one, I think was 2013. We sold one, but it was a 1962 model. So we sell one every 50 years or so. They make use of them. Again, they are well made and can be used, but eventually we will get rid of a truck, and usually we sell it at auction. The last one we sold, it just total side note and wasting time, but that 62 ended up in a museum. It was in such good shape that it was a prime example of American La France, I think is what it was. And it had the bell on it was rang with a string. So they were, ended up in a museum upstate.
How much do we get for that one?
Nothing, $3,500 maybe, something like that. Enough that I thought about buying it for myself, but.
Maybe we could have a fire truck park or something.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe too many sharp corners.
Any other questions? Do we have a motion?
Mayor and council, I'd like to make a motion to approve the capital financing resolution and the related budget ordinance amendment.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Next item, consideration of changes to personnel policy, enclosure 9. Leanne Basinger, Human Resources Director. Revision to sick leave policy and family medical leave, paternity leave and paternity leave and maternity leave. Communication with elected officials.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor, because it feels like we've been here all night. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, ladies and gentlemen of the council, Madam Manager. I am coming to you tonight to ask for some changes to our personnel policy. Y'all updated our personnel policy and approved it probably 2019. And so after the approval of the elected officials, when we make changes, we want to make you aware of the changes and get your approval for those changes. So we did a recent review of our personnel policy regarding leave related to the birth of a child. I don't know why we'd be looking at that, but we did. And what we found is that we had policies that were inconsistent with one another. In one policy, it might say they had to use sick leave before they could use vacation. The other policy said they had to use vacation before they could use sick leave. So we went through, we revised the sick leave policy, the family medical leave policy, and then the paternity and maternity leave. In the sick leave, we added that they are allowed to use up to 12 weeks of approved maternity or paternity leave at the discretion of the employee. They can elect to use that leave or not, depending on the employee. Language was also added to indicate that the care of a spouse, dependent child, or parent was to be related to an illness or bodily injury. Before it just said the care of. It didn't have a requirement that they had to be sick or injured. In the Family Medical Leave Act, the section that referenced a provision of the policy that had previously been removed was removed. It referenced something that was no longer there, so we thought, well, we'll just take that out. And an employee will now have the discretion to utilize any of their available paid leave in any order while absent under the approved FMLA absence. The other thing that we really talked a lot about was we were telling employees that they had to use all of their leave up front and then go into an unpaid leave status, which created some challenges if they had payroll deductions. They could make those payroll deductions early in their absence, but at the end, when we were forcing them into an unpaid leave status, they couldn't make those deductions. So then they came back to work and they had arrears in their deductions. So we've changed the policy so that they can elect, I want to use 20 hours per week so I can have the full 12 weeks. That keeps my deductions current and I don't come back on arrears. The biggest change is to the paternity and maternity. We are adding 6 weeks of paid leave to both. These leaves will not come off an employee's balance, so they can use those sick leave, those 6 weeks, immediately following the birth of the baby or within 12 months of the birth of the baby. They can use it for baby bonding. They can use it for doctor's visits. They can use it for recovery after delivery. They can use it for whatever they want, and it's not going to come off their balances. After the end of that 6-week period, if they wish to remain out for the rest of the 12 weeks, that will come off their leave balances, and it will be at their discretion whether they want to use their sick leave first or their vacation leave. When we made the change several years ago to cap vacation balances at 240 hours for our employees and then annually roll the additional into sick leave, we were also telling them, oh, but you can only use vacation leave after the birth of a child, but you can only have 6 weeks of vacation, so then you're going to be put in a situation where you have unpaid leave. So I think these policy changes are really pro-employee. It's really going to show our employees that we are very aware of the demands of being a new parent. It allows them some flexibility on how they want to use their available leave. And it's very generous in granting new moms and new dads 6 weeks of paid leave with that new precious baby at the house. I'm happy to take any questions that you may have.
Questions?
I don't have any questions, but I just want to thank you for bringing this up to date.
Thank you. So we do need a motion for your approval of these changes to our personnel policy.
Those two motions we need.
Yes, sir.
Is there a motion?
Yes, make a motion that these be approved and voted up today.
We have a second. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, raise your right hand.
Thank you. So the second part of this is communication between elected officials and staff. So y'all have long had in your code guidelines on communicating with staff. We realize that that does not exist in our personnel policy. So all this is doing is bringing our personnel policy into a line with the policies that y'all operate under as an elected board. So this is a brand new policy that will be added into our existing personnel policy. It is in, the policy in its whole is in your information, but it's the principle is exactly the same as the principle that y'all are under. If you have a question that needs to come from a staff member, the request is that it go through the city manager's office so that the communication is consistent, it's clear, she's aware of what kind of information you're asking, and staff are keeping the city manager advised of the data that they're providing you. Any questions about that change?
I've got some questions about it.
Certainly.
So, as I read this policy, I started doing some looking, and has there been an issue that would make this, and so let's say if a staff member does communicate with a elected official, since it's in the policy, what is the ramifications of that?
Well, so we're asking basically that if a staff member and a city council member have a conversation, that the city manager be advised. It would be preferred if she was advised ahead of that conversation, but if she couldn't be, she was unavailable, or you ran into somebody out in public, then the request is that she be made aware after the conversation, just so she knows what we're talking about.
And Mayor and Council, if I may, this has been an existing policy. It is in your code of ordinances. It's also given to all elected officials when you come on board. We thought it would be cleaner to make sure that everyone understands what the policy is, because sometimes when it's buried in code, it's hard to understand that. But this is an existing policy in your code of ordinance.
So it doesn't mean that there can't be any communication, it just means that we make sure the city manager knows about it.
That is correct.
So what are we describing as meaningful city business if the staff member is not allowed to communicate with council based off of meaningful city business?
I'll defer to our city attorney, but the city council operates under a council manager form of government. And again, this is all laid out in general statute. It's something you've been operating on. Bill, would you like to add anything?
To me, that would, any city business is potentially meaningful. So, the way I take it is that an elected official wants to talk to staff. If you want to talk about the weather, that's not, that's one thing, but if you're talking about any city business, it's potentially meaningful.
So I guess
where do you draw the line?
That's what I'm asking, because it's a very vague statement. So let's say if I'm crossing paths with, we just talked about a fire truck, let's use that for an example. They say, hey, how's a fire truck coming? Is that considered a meaningful city business that would need to be reported? You understand what I'm saying? There's vague, it's a very open, vague, discretionary language here, and I've never been aware of this being an issue, and then all of a sudden it's a staff.
I believe all newly elected officials were giving this. I've got a packet. Again, nothing's changing.
Okay. So
I don't.
People would still. I was asking. It's in there. I understand what you're saying, but as he's saying, I think that there lays some kind of groundwork here.
I think it's more directing staff. City council, according to general statute, does not have the authority to direct staff in day-to-day operations. Correct. But again, this is doing nothing more than, as we know, staff changes, managers change. I think this policy has been around since the early 2000s.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree that there's a council manager statement we're not allowed to direct staff, but just as a general conversation of, hey, how's the fire truck coming? I'm not going down there asking that, I'm just using that example. It seems like a broad overreach of power, and to me it seems as if it undermines potentially council's statutory obligations and statutory powers of oversight and different things. I just find it odd that all of a sudden this is an issue. I don't disagree with you. I actually have the information right here as far as what the manager, council state, the statutes. And I think that it creates an issue here, that could potentially violate the city's First Amendment rights, city employees. I think that this policy must have defined language within the policy, not a broad, vague language that requires a city employee to restrict all communication of meaningful city business. The policy must also allow city council's oversight of the city's operations. So if anything that is a meaningful conversation and just a standard thing, I can imagine that if I'm crossing paths with the fire chief, say, hey, how's the fire truck coming, that he's got to run and notify the city manager that is meaningful city business. That's my point. It's very vague. So where is that line drawn so that staff does not feel that every time they speak to a council member that they've got to run and say something? I do understand wanting to know what meaningful city business is. If you're out here having a conversation, say, well, why did Summer or Chris make this dollar amount in the budget, and you're getting into the weeds of that, I can see where that conversation would need to be asked directly, but just a general vague overview, I think it carries some.
I guess I'll defer to legal and your colleagues on this, as this has been an existing policy.
So taking your example about how's the fire truck. So if it's just a general question, if there's an issue about the maintenance of the fire truck, and that you feel as an individual council member that needs to be addressed or whatever, and you're with that staff member, then I think that needs to be directed with the city manager. If you're just saying, how's the fire truck? Oh, it's great, But, so you just have to sometimes you just have to use common sense.
I agree.
And you're going, this discussion is just, just a friendly discussion that is not creating any potential controversy or issue.
Yes, that's what I'm asking.
But I think that each council member will just have to take it upon themselves to weigh how that staff member is going to feel. If it's something that the staff member feels uncomfortable discussing, or if it's something that the staff member, they may feel compelled to answer you because you're a city council member. And, that would be meaningful if you're putting a staff member in a potentially uncomfortable position or position where they may not go and answer. But if it's just, how are you doing? How do you like to do this? That's good. But if it's something that deals with policy, then that's when I think that it's direct.
So to me, that's an example policy, and I don't disagree. That's why I'm asking, what does this vague language?
If you'll look at article on the next page, workers' condition and expectations. Again, the policy you've had for over 20 years. The very last sentence, communication between staff and elected officials of a personal matter does not require informing of the city manager. So again, I'll defer to council and our legal. Nothing is changing with this 20-plus year policy. It's simply putting it out there so we all are understanding, because staff changes, your manager's changed in 20 years.
Yeah, and our current personnel policy is provided to every new hire. They are not given a copy of the Code of Ordinances at the time of hire. So they may not be aware that this has been our practice for 20 plus years. This will make sure that our employees are aware that this is the expectation as part of their being part of Team Reidsville.
And then, for example, say this past week, I had several reports of speeding. I didn't go to the chief's office and say, Chief, you got to do something about speeding on such and such street. I went to the manager and let the manager handle it. And you shouldn't try to tell somebody how to do their job. That's not appropriate.
I agree.
So I do need a motion again to approve this change.
Do we have a motion?
Yes, I make a motion to approve the changes written.
I second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand.
Thank y'all very much.
Next item. Board and commission appointments. Enclosure 10. The RDC Board of Directors requests the endorsement of applicant Mary Chalk of Realty One Group Results to serve on the Main Street Advisory Board. You've had an opportunity to look at the attached memo. What's the pleasure of council?
I'd like to.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Okay, manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'll be very brief and respectful of time. So I just wanted to make note of the annual City of Reidsville Employee Picnic, which is this Saturday, May the 16th, from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., and it'll be at the Splash Pad. You have flyers for you. We're really excited to honor our employees. And then the last item of note I just want to point out my report is I want to give props to our Assistant City Manager, Chris Phillips, Josh Dominant, Public Works, Fire. Just want to get your thoughts on Sprinkle Street. Everyone's probably familiar with the intersection above, and this is on page 2 of my report. Sprinkle and Scales. One of the most common traffic complaints in the city is how tight the right turn is from Scales onto Sprinkle. And I know in the past we've actually had residents come and speak on this issue, so we've tried to really look at this. With there being no cross traffic, there really is no need for 2 lanes on Sprinkle, and Sprinkle is a city road. A single lane with both right and left turns would be sufficient, giving the other lane more room for those turning. The Reidsville Police Department, Fire Department, and Public Works all agree that this change would not cause any trouble. Public Works thinks the change could be made with a minimum cost, and Public Works will contact NCDOT to see if there are any concerns from them, since Scales Street is a state road. If they have no issues, this change will be made this summer. Is this something you, just kind of a consensus, interested in us exploring? Because I know we've had a lot of residents and citizens come, and this may be a minimum cost to make a big impact.
Yes.
Even though, if you recall, I had you make that turn, and you did it perfectly, I think it would be something that would be suitable to work with.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. And Mayor and Council, that concludes my report.
I have a question, please. The redundant water line, the same 3 parcels remain to complete the easement. How long has this been going on? What do we need to do?
Well over a couple of years. I'll defer to legal on that.
Yeah, Brad, the last email that I saw, he's still trying to work on it, and, you know, I don't know if he's going to get anywhere.
You may have to look at other options.
I was going to say, is that fair to everybody else that already?
And that's the last email I saw, is that it hadn't been turned over to me. He was just trying one, I guess, like a last ditch effort, trying to get it worked out. So that's all I know.
It kind of sounds like he's had a lot of last ditch efforts and they haven't paid off, so.
Yes, sir.
We did receive one settlement today.
Oh.
So we should go to 2 parcels.
Okay.
Those 2 may have to go to condemnation, but we'll provide an update.
Okay. Thank you for that. Thank you, Councilmember Scobell.
Is Diane still here?
you. I will be quick as well. It is late. I know everybody is tired. Just really quickly, thank you all for the opportunity to speak tonight. Just really quick, we have the Sheening's Business, Women's Business and Industry Expo next week, sponsored by Cone Health and Pelham Transportation Corporation. We are sold out at 150. Very excited about this. This is our second annual event, and I think it's going to be really exciting. We are also going to our Reidsville night with the Grasshoppers, which is sponsored by Team Reidsville. I think we ordered 380 some shirts at the beginning of the week. So, and tickets and t-shirts are still coming through. So, pretty excited about that. I think it'll be a great time. Things to point out, ribbon cuttings. We have two really great ones coming up. Chilton Family Home Care. They are celebrating not only having opened a second home in the last 2 years, but 15 years in business. So, I mean, just first of all, as we all know, owning a business, 15 years is a really great milestone for a small business owner, but also for somebody who cares so well for the folks in our community. So we're excited to celebrate them next Tuesday, May 19th. And that is at 12 o'clock at the farm at the home care. So also really exciting, I heard it out of one of the VP's mouth just a month ago on Reidsville Day, how Reidsville continues to be the leading facility in our Cone Health system. So Annie Penn is just top notch and doing a great job, and Jessica has hit the ground running as the new site administrator, and we are having a ribbon cutting for the expansion of their CT services. As you all know, it is very important to be able to offer services here in our community, and this is going to be the advanced cardiac CT expansion. So that celebration and ribbon cutting is on May the 28th at 12 o'clock. And then some of you may be familiar with the Dancing Goat. They were in Ruffin for a while, and they have brought the Goatique to Freeway Drive, and all of the things that they sell there goes back to purchase durable medical equipment for folks who need that in the community. So pretty cool ribbon cuttings. That's on June 9th, so I think that's actually next council meeting. I wanted to be sure it was in there at noon. And then there's some other stuff, and next coffee will be at Brookdale in June. So if no questions.
I just want to make a comment.
Yeah.
I think it was late October last year. I was in the span of 2 weeks, I was in 3 hospitals, Cone, Annie Penn, and Wake Forest. By far, Annie Penn, I told my husband if anything ever happens to me, I go to Annie Penn. I don't want to go anywhere else.
Yeah, they've just grown leaps and bounds, and they're doing a great job. So, okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. Council members' reports. Mayor Pro Tem.
No report this month.
Councilman Martin.
I'll forget one.
I attended the Tuesday, April the 28th Human Relations Commission's meeting, and also attended the May 4th through the 7th, the NCLM State Conference in Raleigh. That's my report.
Councilwoman Barbara Daisy.
I think I just mentioned 2 things. I attended the ministerial allowance at Zion Baptist Church, and also the children's parade. I thought that was very cute. They put a lot of time and effort in there.
They did. Thank you, ma'am. I'm going to forego my report tonight also. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to say? Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Okay, thank you.